The sanctum sanctorum was bleeding, not metaphorically. Actual rivulets of crimson energy seeped through the walls of 177A Bleecker Street as Dr. Strange pressed his trembling hands against the eye of Agamotto, the time stone pulsing sickly green against his chest. Across from him, Scarlet Witch hovered 3 feet off the ground, her eyes twin voids of churning red chaos, fingers weaving patterns that made reality itself flinch. Wong stood at the perimeter, maintaining a protective barrier that crackled with golden mandalas, his face carved from concentration and fear. "Stephen, if this fails," Wong began. "It won't," Strange snapped, but his voice cracked. Sweat poured down his temples. "I've seen 14,605 futures. In only one do we win, and in that future, we don't fight this war alone." Wanda's voice came out layered, harmonized with something ancient and furious. "I can feel them across the void, heroes, warriors, gods who haven't lost yet." Her head tilted, vertebrae popping. "But the fabric is screaming, Stephen. If I tear it open, it might not close." "Then we die with it open," Strange said flatly. "Because if Thanos completes the gauntlet, there won't be a fabric left to save." Outside, the sky over New York had turned the color of a fresh bruise. 3 hours ago, Bruce Banner crashed through the roof in the Hulkbuster armor, babbling about Asgardian refugees slaughtered, about Thor lost in space, about Thanos coming with 5 Infinity Stones already in his possession. 2 hours ago, Vision and Wanda barely escaped Edinburgh with their lives, Corvus Glaive's blade leaving Vision glitching and bleeding synthetic tissue. 1 hour ago, Tony Stark's distress beacon went silent somewhere past Jupiter. And 30 minutes ago, the first of Thanos' dropships burned through the atmosphere over Wakanda. They were losing on 3 fronts simultaneously. Earth's mightiest heroes were fractured, scattered, dying. Captain America was operating out of the shadows with a fugitive squad. Thor was missing, half the Avengers were war criminals, and Thanos was inevitable, unless Strange did the one thing the Ancient One had forbidden, pierce the membrane between universes and drag someone else's champions into their war. "Now, Wanda," Strange commanded. Chaos magic erupted from Wanda's hands in twin cyclones of scarlet madness. Strange opened the eye of Agamotto fully, the time stone's light flooding the sanctum like a dying star going supernova. The two energies collided, merged, became something that had no name in any language spoken by mortals. The air split. Not tore, split like a surgeon's scalpel through living flesh. Through the wound in reality, Strange saw another world. Cleaner, brighter. A world where metropolises gleamed under sunlight that didn't taste like ash, where symbols of hope flew on red capes instead of being buried under Senate hearings. He saw 7 figures, and he called them. The spell detonated. Wong's barrier shattered. Every window in the sanctum exploded outward in a rain of kaleidoscope glass. Strange and Wanda collapsed simultaneously, blood streaming from their eyes, ears, noses. And in the center of the sanctum, standing in a circle like ancient sentinels awakened from stone sleep, were 7 warriors who didn't belong. Batman's cape settled around him like a living shadow, white eyes glowing in his cowl. He swept the room in 2 seconds, cataloging exits, threats, the blood on Strange's face, Wong's defensive posture. His hand didn't move to his belt. Didn't need to. He'd already counted 3 ways to kill everyone here if this was a trap. Superman landed last, Boots touching marble with impossible gentleness for a man who could crack planets. His cape was still settling, his eyes burning blue, not yet heat vision but close, fixed on Strange with an intensity that made Wong take an involuntary step back. Where are we? Not aggressive. Firm. The voice of someone used to being listened to. Wonder Woman had her sword half drawn, golden lasso coiled at her hip, scanning for immediate threats. The Amazonian warrior's instincts screamed wrong place, wrong time, wrong reality, but her face showed only calm readiness. Beside her, Aquaman gripped his quindent, nostrils flaring as he tasted the air. Salt water distant, this city built on an island, tactical advantage noted. Green Lantern's ring blazed emerald, construct armor already forming over his flight suit, scanning the room for energy signatures. The Flash vibrated in place, molecules oscillating so fast he blurred at the edges, ready to evacuate or attack in a picosecond. And Cyborg's tech lit up like a Christmas tree, every system trying and failing to interface with this universe's digital infrastructure. Red Eye, glowing hot as firewalls, screamed at him in languages his mother box didn't recognize. "Gentlemen," Batman said quietly, still staring at Strange. "And Diana, we're not in Kansas anymore." "We're not anywhere near our Earth," Cyborg confirmed, voice distorted through his speakers. "I can't access any satellites. No Wayne Enterprises servers, no Justice League databases. Even the internet here is..." He paused. "It exists, but it's not ours. Different history, different heroes." Superman took one step forward. Just one. It was enough to make Wong throw up another golden shield on pure reflex. "Talk," Superman said to Strange. Not a request. Strange dragged himself to his feet, leaning on Wong's shoulder, wiping blood from his upper lip with the back of his hand. His fingers still shook. "My name is Dr. Stephen Strange, master of the mystic arts, sorcerer supreme of Earth." He gestured weakly to Wanda, who was breathing hard on her knees, red energy still sparking in her hair. "This is Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and we just committed the single most dangerous act of magical warfare in the history of this dimension because we're out of options and out of time." "Options for what?" Wonder Woman's sword clicked back into its sheath, but her hand stayed on the hilt. "To stop a titan named Thanos from wiping out half of all life in the universe with a snap of his fingers." Silence. Not shocked silence. Tactical silence. The kind of silence that falls over soldiers when the mission brief goes from bad to apocalyptic and there's no time to process, only react. Flash stopped vibrating. "Half? You said half?" "Indiscriminate," Strange confirmed. "Rich, poor, human, alien, child, elder, hero, civilian. Half of everything that breathes will turn to dust when he completes the Infinity Gauntlet. He has 5 of the 6 stones. He's already slaughtered the Asgardian refugees to get the Space Stone. He sent his Black Order to Earth for the last 2, time and mind. And right now, our forces are scattered across 3 battlefronts trying to hold the line against an enemy we can't beat." Batman's voice cut through like a scalpel. "You're saying you pulled us from our universe to fight your war?" "Yes," without asking. "There wasn't time for diplomacy," Strange said. "I looked forward. 14,605 possible futures. In 14,604 of them, Thanos wins. We lose. Half the universe dies. In the one future where we survive, you're standing in this room right now having this conversation instead of letting me finish the briefing." Green Lantern lowered his ring slightly. You can see the future. Strange tapped the eye of Agamotto. The Time Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Thanos wants it, which means I'm either bait or a bargaining chip, depending on how pessimistic you want to be about our odds. Superman looked at Batman. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. 3 years fighting side by side meant whole conversations happened in a glance. Batman gave the smallest nod. Superman turned back to Strange. "Show us." Strange didn't hesitate. He waved his hands, and the air filled with glowing orange projections. Recorded images from the Time Stone's vision. Thanos on his throne, the Black Order descending on New York and Edinburgh. Vision screaming as Corvus Glaive's blade pierced his head. Tony Stark bleeding out on an alien world. Thor floating unconscious in space. The snap, people dissolving into ash and wind. Peter Parker crying, "I don't feel so good," as he crumbled in Tony's arms. T'Challa collapsing in the Wakandan dirt. Wanda's scream as Vision died a second time, and then the worst image. Thanos sitting on a porch at sunrise, his armor discarded, the gauntlet scorched and useless on his arm, satisfied, victorious, watching a grateful universe prove him right. The projections faded. Wonder Woman's jaw was clenched so tight her teeth could crack diamonds. Aquaman's knuckles were white on his quindent. Flash looked like he might throw up. Cyborg's human eye glistened. Green Lantern's ring flared brighter, feeding on his rage. Superman's fists were trembling. Batman spoke first. "You said 3 battlefronts. Detail them." "Wakanda," Strange said immediately, pulling up a holographic map. "Advanced African nation, vibranium-based technology. King T'Challa, the Black Panther, is fortifying his borders right now. Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, War Machine, and what's left of the Avengers are there with him. Thanos is sending his full ground invasion force, thousands of outriders. Dog-like alien shock troops, sentient biological weapons. They'll hit Wakanda's barrier dome in less than 3 hours." He shifted the map. Titan. Thanos' abandoned homeworld. Tony Stark, Iron Man, is there with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange's astral duplicate, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Nebula, Thanos' estranged daughter. They're planning an ambush to take the Gauntlet by force. Thanos is heading there because he thinks the Soul Stone is nearby. It's not, but he'll arrive expecting a trap, which means they need to make it a good one. Another shift. And Edinburgh, Scotland, Vision and Wanda barely escaped, but the Mind Stone is in Vision's head, and Thanos' enforcers, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight, are hunting them. If Vision dies, the Mind Stone is exposed. If Thanos gets it before we can mount a coordinated defense, it's over. "Then we don't let him have it," Superman said simply. "You don't understand the scale," Wanda rasped, finally standing, red energy crackling around her fingers. "I've felt his mind. Thanos isn't a conqueror. He's a believer. He thinks he's saving the universe. Mercy is weakness to him. Hesitation is sin. And with 5 Infinity Stones, he can rewrite reality, control minds, destroy planets with a thought, and see every possible future where we try to stop him." "Good thing we've fought gods before," Flash said, but his grin was strained. Batman stepped forward, cape swirling. "You need tacticians, heavy hitters, and specialists who can operate independently across multiple theaters simultaneously. You need us to be force multipliers, which means you need to tell us everything about the stones, the Black Order, Thanos' psychology, and every asset you have in play. And you need to do it in the next 60 seconds, because if we're fighting this war, we're not doing it blind." Strange smiled. It was exhausted, bloody, and relieved. Finally, someone who thinks like a soldier. He looked at Superman. And someone who fights like a god. Let's hope that's enough. Superman met his gaze. Didn't smile. We've saved our world more times than I can count. We'll save yours too. Or die trying, Wonder Woman added, and it wasn't bravado. It was a promise. Strange nodded. Wong, open a portal to Wakanda. Direct line to the palace. T'Challa needs to know reinforcements are coming. He turned to the Justice League, and for the first time since the snap, he let himself feel something that almost resembled hope. Welcome to the worst day of your lives. Let's make sure the universe survives it. Batman looked at his team. At Superman, who could break worlds. At Wonder Woman, who'd fought in wars when this planet was still young. At Flash, who could outrun death itself. At Green Lantern, whose will could reshape matter. At Aquaman, who commanded oceans and armies. At Cyborg, who could hack the unhackable. And he looked back at Strange. We'll split. Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman to Wakanda. Flash, Green Lantern, and Cyborg with me to Titan. We coordinate in real time. We hit them on every front simultaneously. And we end this before it starts. Ambitious, Strange said. Necessary, Batman corrected. And as Wong tore open golden portals to 3 different battlefields, the Justice League stepped forward into a war that wasn't theirs, to save a universe they'd never seen, because that's what heroes do. The multiverse was watching. Thanos was coming, and for the first time, the odds weren't impossible. They were merely insurmountable. Wakanda's barrier shimmered like a soap bubble wrapped around a nation, golden hexagonal patterns rippling across the dome as Thanos' dropships began their descent through the atmosphere. From the palace balcony, King T'Challa watched the sky turn black with alien steel, his vibranium claws extended, the Black Panther suit absorbing and redistributing kinetic energy with every breath. Beside him, Okoye gripped her spear, the general of the Dora Milaje, stone-faced but calculating odds that got worse with every passing second. M'Baku stood with his Jabari warriors at the tree line, guerrilla chants echoing through the valley, wooden shields raised. Steve Rogers, Captain America, though he'd abandoned the title when he abandoned the Accords, stood with his worn shield strapped to his arm, star barely visible under scratches and dents from 2 years of operating in the shadows. Bucky Barnes checked his rifle. Sam Wilson tested his wings. James Rhodes hovered in the War Machine armor, repulsor systems online, counting targets that outnumbered his ammunition by a factor of 10,000. They're not slowing down, Okoye said quietly. They don't need to, Steve replied. They'll hit the barrier full force. Test its strength. When they find a weak point, they'll pour through like water through a cracked dam. T'Challa's jaw tightened. Then we hold the line until there is no line left to hold. Behind them, in Shuri's lab, Bruce Banner stood in the Hulkbuster armor looking at vision laid out on an operating table, the Mind Stone glowing sickly yellow in his forehead, while Shuri worked frantically with holographic interfaces. Vision's eyes flickered, his synthetic skin phasing between solid and transparent as his systems tried to compensate for the damage Corvus Glaive's blade had inflicted. Wanda knelt beside him, one hand pressed to his cheek, the other leaking red energy into the air like smoke. How long? Bruce asked. To safely remove the stone without killing him? Shuri didn't look up, her hands flying through code faster than Bruce could track. Hours, maybe longer. His neural network is more complex than anything I've ever seen. If I rush this, I'll lobotomize him." "We don't have hours," Wanda whispered. "Then we make the time," Shuri snapped. "I didn't become the smartest person in Wakanda by accepting impossible as an answer." That's when Wong's portal tore open in the center of the lab. Golden sparks spiraled into a perfect circle, and through it stepped 3 figures that made everyone in the room freeze. Superman came through first, cape settling red and blue against the vibranium-lit lab, the House of El symbol on his chest catching light like a challenge to physics itself. His eyes swept the room. Vision on the table, the Mind Stone, Shuri's tech, Wanda's barely controlled power. And in 2 seconds he'd assessed threat levels, calculated optimal defensive positions, and filed away 17 ways this could go catastrophically wrong. Wonder Woman followed, her armor gleaming bronze and gold, the lasso of truth coiled at her hip, sword and shield mag-locked to her back. She moved like violence contained in silk, every step deliberate, a warrior born in an age when gods walked battlefields and mercy was earned, not given. Aquaman stepped through last, quindent in hand, hair still wet like he'd been swimming seconds before the summoning, orange and green scales of his armor catching the lab's light, and his nostrils flared as he tasted the air. Soil rich in rare earth elements, water table deep and pure, a nation built on secrets and strength. "Shuri," Wong said quickly. They have eyes," Shuri interrupted, staring at Superman like he was an equation that shouldn't exist. "And sensors. And every scientific instrument in this lab is currently screaming at me that the man in the cape is violating at least 40 laws of thermodynamics just by standing there." Superman offered a small smile. "I get that a lot." Bruce took a step forward in the Hulkbuster, servos whining. "Wait, you're not from here. I can tell. Something about your bioelectric field is wrong. Different frequency, like you're vibrating slightly out of sync with everything else." "We're from another Earth," Wonder Woman said simply. "Dr. Strange summoned us. We're here to help." "Help with what?" Wanda asked, standing slowly, red energy crackling around her knuckles. "Who are you?" "My name is Diana Prince. Where I'm from, they call me Wonder Woman." She gestured to Superman. "This is Kal-El." "Superman and Arthur Curry," Aquaman finished. "Aquaman, King of Atlantis, and before anyone asks, yes, I can tell this place is built on a vibranium meteorite impact site. And no, I don't know what vibranium is, but I'm guessing it's why your tech looks like magic and your water table tastes like lightning." Shuri blinked. "I like him." "We don't have time for introductions," Superman said, his voice urgent but controlled. "Strange briefed us. Thanos, Infinity Stones, invasion force incoming. We're here to reinforce your defenses and buy you time to extract the Mind Stone safely." He looked at Vision. "If we can save him, we save him. That's not negotiable." "Kal doesn't negotiate on lives," Wonder Woman added. "It's both his greatest strength and his most infuriating flaw." Says the woman who once held a sword to Batman's throat over a philosophical disagreement, Aquaman muttered. "He was wrong. He's always wrong. Doesn't mean you stab him." Bruce held up the Hulkbuster's hands. Okay. Multiverse, heroes. Great, fantastic. We'll process the existential crisis later. Right now, those dropships are landing, and we've got maybe 10 minutes before the Outriders hit the barrier. So if you're here to help, we need you on the front line. Superman looked at Wonder Woman. You take ground command with their king. I'll handle aerial threats. And I'll find their water sources, Aquaman said. If this planet has oceans, rivers, or underground reservoirs, I can weaponize them. Outriders need to drink. Everything needs to drink. Wakanda is landlocked, Shuri said. But we have the river borders and... Rivers are fine, Aquaman interrupted. Rivers can drown armies if you ask them nicely. Wong opened another portal. Palace balcony. Their leadership is waiting. Wonder Woman stepped through first. The portal deposited her directly in front of T'Challa, Steve Rogers, and Okoye, and the three warriors locked eyes in a moment of mutual recognition that transcended universes. T'Challa saw a woman who carried herself like royalty tempered in war. Steve saw a soldier who understood sacrifice without needing a lecture. Okoye saw a sister-in-arms who'd walked battlefields long before Wakanda was a name. You're the king, Wonder Woman said to T'Challa. Not a question. I am. Then you understand what's coming isn't a battle. It's an extinction event, and if we don't hold them here, there won't be a second chance. T'Challa's eyes narrowed. You speak with authority. Who are you? Diana of Themyscira, princess of the Amazons, daughter of Hippolyta. And right now, I'm the woman who's going to help you kill everything that comes through that barrier. She turned to Steve. You're their tactician. I can see it. You've fought wars where the odds were worse than this. Steve almost smiled. World War II, Hydra, the Battle of New York, Ultron, Leipzig. Take your pick. Then you know how this works. We divide their attention, force them to fight on multiple fronts, make them waste resources on hard targets while your shooters pick them apart. She unhooked her shield from her back. I'll anchor the center line. Your king holds the left flank. You take the right, and we bleed them until they stop coming. They won't stop, Okoye said coldly. Outriders don't retreat. They don't tire. They swarm until everything in their path is dead or they are. Good, Wonder Woman said. I prefer enemies who commit. That's when Superman dropped from the sky like a meteor, landing beside them with enough force to crack the balcony stone, cape billowing in the wind as the dropships began disgorging their cargo. Thousands of outriders, black-skinned, six-limbed, feral and chittering, poured out of the ships like locusts, slamming into the barrier in waves. The dome held, golden hexagons flaring with each impact, but the creatures didn't stop. They clawed at the energy field, teeth snapping, some forcing their way through only to be bisected by the barrier's edge, their bodies falling in pieces while the rest kept coming. They're testing it, Steve said, looking for gaps. Superman's eyes glowed blue, heat vision ready but restrained. Then we don't give them any. He looked at T'Challa. Your barrier. Can you open it in sections? Controlled breaches? We can, T'Challa said slowly. But the moment we do, they'll flood through. That's the idea, Superman replied. Funnel them into kill zones. Let them think they're winning, and then we collapse the trap. He pointed to the tree line where M'Baku's warriors waited. Your infantry holds the narrows. Your air support, War Machine, Falcon, strafes the flanks, and I'll hit their dropships before they can unload reinforcements. You're one man, Okoye said. Superman turned to her, and his eyes burned with something that wasn't quite heat vision, but close. No, I'm not. He took off. No running start. No build-up. just 0 to Mach 3 in a heartbeat, a sonic boom cracking across the valley as he became a red and blue blur against the black sky. He hit the first dropship with his fists leading, punching through the hull like it was aluminum foil, and the ship exploded in a fireball that lit up the valley. He didn't slow. He tore through 3 more ships in as many seconds, each one detonating in a cascade of shrapnel and screaming metal, outriders tumbling from the wreckage to smash into the barrier or the ground below. Rhodey's voice crackled over the comms. "What the hell is that?" "Reinforcements," Steve said, watching Superman carve through Thanos' fleet like a scythe through wheat. "And if we're smart, we'll make sure he doesn't have to do this alone." Aquaman emerged from Wong's portal at the riverbank, where Rocket Raccoon and Groot were setting up perimeter defenses. The raccoon took one look at the 7-foot armored king holding a glowing trident and his tail bushed out. "Okay," Rocket said slowly. "I've seen a lot of weird crap in this galaxy. Talking trees, space gods, genocidal purple titans. But a human-fish hybrid with a magic fork is new." "It's a quindent," Aquaman corrected. "And I'm not a hybrid. I'm Atlantean." "I am Groot," Groot said. "He says you smell like ocean," Rocket translated. Aquaman smiled. "Tell him thank you." He turned to the river, which was wide and fast, fed by distant mountain runoff. He raised the quindent, and the water responded. Not metaphorically. The river rose, tendrils of liquid coiling into the air like serpents, and Aquaman's eyes glowed pale green as he connected to every drop, every current, every molecule. This world's oceans are different, saltier, warmer, but water is water, and water remembers how to kill. He thrust the quindent into the ground. The river exploded upward in a 50-foot wave that froze mid-crest, suspended by Aquaman's will, waiting like a held breath. "When they come through the barrier," Aquaman said, "I'll drown the first 1,000. After that, you shoot whatever's left." Rocket grinned, showing all his teeth. "I think I love you." On the palace balcony, T'Challa made the call. "Shuri, open the barrier, northwest quadrant, 20 meters. "Bast, protect us," Shuri whispered, and the barrier flickered open. The outriders poured through like a black tide, thousands of them, claws tearing into the dirt as they charged. M'Baku's warriors raised their shields. Steve raised his arm. Wonder Woman drew her sword, and Okoye screamed the war cry of the Dora Milaje. "Wakanda forever!" The armies collided. Vibranium spears against alien claws, Jabari shields against chittering teeth. Bucky's rifle barked in controlled bursts. Sam's wings sliced through outriders mid-leap. Rhodey's repulsors turned charging packs into ash. And in the center of the carnage, Wonder Woman became a goddess of war incarnate, her sword singing through alien flesh, her shield deflecting claws that could shred steel, the lasso of truth whipping out to wrap around outrider necks and snap them like twigs. An outrider leapt at T'Challa. He ducked, claws extending, and gutted it mid-air before spinning to bisect 2 more. Okoye's spear flashed, impaling 3 in one thrust. M'Baku's club caved in skulls with the sound of wet thunder. And Steve Rogers fought like a man who'd been doing this since 1943, shield blocking, redirecting, striking with brutal efficiency. But there were too many. For every 10 they killed, 20 more poured through the gap. That's when Aquaman released the river. The wave crashed down on the outrider flank like the fist of an angry god, drowning hundreds in an instant, sweeping others into the barrier where they were shredded by golden energy. The survivors tried to regroup, but Aquaman wasn't done. He raised the quindent again, and the water rose with it, forming whips, spears, hammers of liquid force that smashed through alien ranks with relentless precision. Above, Superman tore the last dropship in half with his bare hands, tossed the wreckage into the Outrider swarm below, and dove into the melee. He didn't use heat vision, didn't need to. Every punch was a shock wave. Every movement was a blur. He grabbed an Outrider by the leg, swung it into 20 more, and they all went down in a tangled heap of broken limbs. He caught a leaping pack mid-air, crushed them with a clap of his hands, and landed beside Wonder Woman just as she decapitated 3 more. "Show off," she said, not even winded. "Says the woman who just tied 15 aliens into a knot with a magic lasso," Superman replied. "It's the lasso of truth, and they weren't lying when they said they wanted to kill us." Steve Rogers limped over, shield dented, bleeding from a gash on his forehead. He looked at Superman and Wonder Woman, barely scratched, barely breathing hard, and laughed. Actually laughed. "Okay, I take it back. We might actually survive this." T'Challa joined them, claws retracting. "Your friends fight like legends." "They are legends," Steve said. "Just from a different story." That's when the ground shook, not from Outriders, from something bigger. The remaining dropships opened, and out stepped the Black Order's heaviest hitter. Cull obsidian, a living mountain of alien muscle and armor, hammer chain whirling, roaring a challenge that echoed across the battlefield. Aquaman looked at the creature, looked at his quindent, looked back at the creature. "I'll take the big one." "You sure?" Superman asked. "I've fought Karathan. I fought Orm. I fought a giant crab monster in the Marianas Trench that could sink islands." Aquaman grinned. "This'll be fun." He charged. Cull Obsidian swung his hammer. Aquaman blocked with the quindent, and the impact cratered the ground beneath them, a shock wave rippling out that flattened Outriders in a 30-foot radius. They circled each other, Titan versus King, and the battlefield held its breath. In the lab, Shuri's hands froze over the hologram. "We have a problem." "What now?" Bruce asked. "The Mind Stone's neural integration is deeper than I thought. If I remove it, Vision doesn't just lose consciousness. He loses identity, memory, everything that makes him him." Wanda's voice cracked. "Then don't remove it." "If I don't, Thanos takes it and half the universe dies." Vision's eyes flickered open. His voice was weak but steady. "Then you know what must be done?" "No," Wanda whispered. "Wanda." Vision's hand found hers. "I love you, but one life cannot be worth more than billions. If my death saves the universe..." "It won't," Superman said, stepping through Wong's portal into the lab, cape scorched, knuckles bleeding gold. "Because we're going to find another way." He looked at Shuri. "How long do you need?" "Hours. Maybe more." "Then you'll have them." He looked at Bruce. "Get back out there. Hold the line. I'll stay here and make sure nothing gets past this door." "You can't guard him alone," Bruce said. Superman's eyes glowed. "Watch me." Outside, the battle raged. Inside, a plan formed. And across the universe, on a dead moon called Titan, Batman stepped out of Wong's portal with Flash, Green Lantern, and Cyborg, looked at Tony Stark in his nanotech armor, and said 5 words that would change everything. "Tell me everything about Thanos." Titan was a graveyard. Once it might have been beautiful. Tony Stark could see the ruins of what looked like amphitheaters carved into rust-red stone. the skeletal remains of towers that had scraped alien skies, aqueducts that once carried water to a civilization that had solved faster-than-light travel before Earth had invented the wheel. Now it was dust and bones and silence, the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums like cotton soaked in regret. The planet's rings hung overhead like a noose of shattered moons, and the air tasted like copper and failure. Tony stood with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, still too young for this, still cracking jokes because the alternative was screaming, while Doctor Strange's astral projection flickered beside them, the real Strange back on Earth coordinating the Wakanda defense. Star-Lord paced near a collapsed archway, his quad blasters holstered but his fingers twitching, while Drax sharpened his knives with the patience of a man who'd killed so many people that violence had become meditation. Mantis sat cross-legged on a chunk of debris, her empathic abilities reaching out across the dead planet like sonar, searching for Thanos' approach. And Nebula, blue-skinned, half-machine, half-rage, stood apart from the group, her cybernetic eye glowing red as she stared at the horizon where her father would eventually appear. Then Wong's portal tore open reality, and 4 figures stepped through. Batman's cape settled around him like sentient shadow, white lenses in his cowl sweeping the ruins in 2 seconds, cataloging structural weaknesses, choke points, ambush positions, 16 ways to die, and 3 ways to win. The Flash vibrated beside him, molecules oscillating so fast he looked like a living mirage. Yellow lightning crackling in his wake as he processed a battlefield at speeds that made thought seem slow. Green Lantern's ring blazed emerald, already projecting holographic scans of the planet's gravitational fields, atmospheric composition, and structural integrity. And Cyborg's tech lit up every spectrum, his mechanical eye burning white hot as he tried to interface with Titan's dead infrastructure and found only ghosts in the machine. Tony's faceplate retracted. He looked at Batman. Batman looked back. 2 billionaire geniuses with trauma-forged minds and an addiction to control locked eyes across universes, and the recognition was instant and mutual and deeply uncomfortable. "Let me guess," Tony said. "Strange pulled you from another dimension because we're losing and he's desperate." "Close," Batman replied. "He pulled us because you're outmatched, outgunned, and operating with incomplete intelligence on an enemy who's already killed his way across half the galaxy." He stepped forward. "My name is Bruce Wayne. Where I'm from, they call me Batman. This is Barry Allen, the Flash, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and Victor Stone, Cyborg. Stark, Tony Stark. Genius, billionaire, philanthropist, currently very confused." Tony gestured to Peter. "Spider-Man, actual spider powers, not a theme. Strange, you've met. And the Guardians of the Galaxy, who I've known for approximately 4 hours and already regret everything." "I'm Groot," Groot said helpfully. "He says you smell like money and fear," Rocket translated, cradling a rifle that looked like it could atomize tanks. Batman ignored the talking raccoon. He'd seen weirder. "We don't have time for banter. Thanos is coming here because he believes the Soul Stone is on Titan. It's not, which means this is an ambush, and ambushes only work if you control every variable." He looked at Nebula. "You're his daughter." It wasn't a question. Nebula's fists clenched, cybernetic servos whining. "I'm nothing to him, just another broken tool he discarded when I wasn't useful anymore." "Good," Batman said. "Then you want him dead. That makes you an asset." He turned to the group. "What's the plan?" Tony blinked. "Excuse me. The plan. You've been here for hours. You have a genius-level intellect and access to nanotech that shouldn't exist for another century. Strange has the time stone, which means he's seen the future. You have enhanced combatants, a teleporter, and a partial knowledge of Thanos' psychology through Nebula. So what's the plan?" "We were getting to that," Tony said defensively. "Get to it faster." Batman pulled up a holographic projection from his gauntlet. Schematics, tactical assessments, probability matrices that he'd calculated in the 30 seconds since arrival. Thanos has 5 Infinity Stones. Power, space, reality, soul, and time is with Strange on Earth. The Mind Stone is in Vision's head in Wakanda. That means he's vulnerable, relatively speaking, but still capable of rewriting matter, opening portals, and hitting with planetary scale force. A frontal assault fails. Overwhelming force fails. He survived the destruction of Xandar, the slaughter of the Asgardians, and he's still standing, which means we don't fight him. We remove the gauntlet. "We tried that," Star-Lord snapped. "In case you didn't notice, he's pretty attached to it. Then we make him let go." Batman looked at Mantis. "You're an empath. Can you influence his emotional state?" "I can make him sleep," Mantis said quietly. "But only if he's calm. If he's angry, his mind is too strong. Then we make him calm." Batman turned to Nebula. "What does he love?" Nebula's laugh was bitter and broken. "Nothing. He loves nothing. Everyone loves something, even monsters." Batman's voice softened, which was somehow worse than his usual growl. "You said he discarded you, but he kept you alive, modified you. That's not efficiency. That's sentiment. What did he love before he became this?" Nebula's cybernetic eye flickered. "Gamora, my sister. He took her to Vormir for the Soul Stone. The stone requires a sacrifice, a soul for a soul. Something you love." Her voice cracked. "He threw her off a cliff. And when he came back, he had the stone, and he was crying. The silence that followed was the kind that falls over graves. He loved her," Batman said quietly, "which means he has regrets, and regrets make people hesitate." He looked at Strange's projection. "When he arrives, Mantis puts him to sleep. We remove the gauntlet. We scatter the stones across dimensions where he can't follow. War over." "That simple?" Tony asked. "No," Batman admitted, "because he'll have contingencies, the Black Order, backup forces. And the moment we touch the gauntlet, every failsafe he's built into it will trigger. Which is why we need overwhelming force in the critical 3 seconds between disarmament and escape." Green Lantern stepped forward, ring glowing. "I can construct a containment field. Hold him in place once Mantis has him under." "I can phase the gauntlet off his hand," Flash added. "Vibrate my molecules through his, pull it free without triggering contact-based defenses." "I can hack any tech in the gauntlet," Cyborg said. "If it has circuitry, I can shut it down, or at least slow it down." Tony looked at Batman, then at his own nanotech gauntlet. "I hate that your plan is better than mine." "I've been doing this longer," Batman said. "How long?" "Long enough to know that plans only survive first contact with the enemy. So we build redundancies." He pointed to the ruins. "Spider-Man, you're on web support. The moment the gauntlet is off, you wrap it in webbing and we portal it to Earth. Strange, you coordinate extraction. Drax, Star-Lord, you're the distraction. Hit him hard enough to make him focus on you instead of us. Rocket, Groot, you provide suppressing fire. Nebula, you know his fighting style. You counter it. What about you?" Peter asked. Batman pulled a small device from his belt. It looked like a batarang, but the edges glowed faint blue. Kryptonite-based EMP. I built it to stop Superman if he ever went rogue. Modified it for this. He looked at Tony. Your nanotech reads energy signatures, right? Can you replicate this? Tony's eyes widened. You built a weapon to kill your own teammate. I built a weapon to stop him if necessary. There's a difference. Batman's voice was flat. Hope for the best. Plan for the worst. And right now, Thanos is the worst. Tony stared at him. Then he laughed. It was sharp and humorless. We're going to get along great or kill each other. I haven't decided which. Focus on Thanos first, Batman said. Existential crises later. That's when Mantis gasped. He's coming. The sky split, not tore. Split like reality was a curtain, and Thanos had simply pulled it aside with the space stone. The portal was a swirling vortex of blue energy, and through it stepped the Mad Titan himself. 8 feet of purple muscle and philosophical conviction. The infinity gauntlet gleaming on his left hand, with 5 stones embedded like malignant jewels. His armor was gold and blue, scratched and dented from 1,000 battles, and his face, double-chinned, eyes weary but resolute, looked almost sad, like a man doing terrible work because someone had to. I know you're here, Thanos said, his voice deep and patient. I can feel the Time Stone's presence, strange, or his echo, and I smell Stark's fear. It has a very particular scent, desperation mixed with arrogance. He scanned the ruins. Come out. Let's end this with dignity. Tony's faceplate snapped down. Did he just say he can smell me? He's dramatic, Nebula hissed. Don't engage. Stick to the plan. Batman raised his hand. 3 fingers. 2. 1. Strange's astral form flickered into visibility on a ruined tower. Thanos, we need to talk. Thanos smiled. The Sorcerer Supreme. Or are you? I feel the Time Stone, but you're not quite real. A projection. Clever. Clever enough, Strange said. You want the stones. I want to save the universe. We both know how this ends. You snap your fingers. Half of everything dies. But what if I told you there's another way? Then I'd say you're stalling. Thanos raised the gauntlet, the reality stone glowing red, and the ruins around Strange began to warp and twist, stone turning to ribbons, gravity inverting. Strange's projection flickered, destabilized. Now, Batman hissed. Green Lantern erupted from cover, ring blazing, and a construct cage of pure willpower snapped around Thanos. Bars of green energy reinforced by Hal's absolute conviction. Thanos grunted, surprised, and the Power Stone flared purple as he pushed back, cracks spiderwebbing through the construct. Flash blurred forward, vibrating at frequencies that made him intangible, reaching for the gauntlet. Mantis leapt onto Thanos' shoulders, her hands pressing against his temples, empathic powers flooding his mind with forced calm. Sleep, she whispered. Sleep and dream of what you've lost. Thanos' eyes fluttered. Gamora, he breathed, and for a moment, just a moment, he stopped fighting. Flash's hand closed around the gauntlet. He began to phase it, molecules slipping through Thanos' fingers, pulling it free millimeter by millimeter. Then Thanos' eyes snapped open. No. The Soul Stone ignited orange, and Mantis screamed, her mind flooded with the weight of every soul Thanos had ever killed. She fell, convulsing. Green Lantern's construct shattered like glass, and Thanos grabbed Flash by the throat mid-vibration, the space stone pulsing blue as he anchored the speedster to normal time. You're fast, Thanos said, but not faster than thought. He hurled Flash into a ruined wall. The impact cratered stone. Flash didn't get up. Tony's repulsors screamed to life, nanotech forming a massive cannon on his right arm. "Big mistake, Grimace," he fired. The beam hit Thanos square in the chest, energy output enough to level a city block. Thanos slid back 3 feet, armor scorched, and smiled. Stark. The man who started this, the one who opened the portal in New York, the one who built Ultron. Thanos walked forward, through the beam, like a man walking through rain. "You think yourself a hero, but you're just a terrified child playing with weapons you don't understand." "I understand this," Tony snarled, and the nanotech shifted, forming a dozen missile pods. He fired everything: missiles, repulsors, lasers, unibeam, every weapon in his arsenal. The explosions lit up Titan like a second sun. When the smoke cleared, Thanos stood untouched, the reality stone glowing red. Impressive, useless, but impressive. Drax roared and charged, knives flashing. Star-Lord opened fire with quad blasters. Rocket's rifle barked armor-piercing rounds. Groot extended his arms into wooden spears, and Cyborg's plasma cannon howled, white-hot energy cutting across the battlefield. Thanos deflected Drax with a casual backhand, caught Star-Lord's blaster bolt with the Space Stone, and redirected it into Rocket, grabbed Groot's wooden spears and ripped them from his body and absorbed Cyborg's plasma blast with the Power Stone before returning it tenfold. Cyborg's shields screamed and failed. He went down, armor sparking, systems critical. "You fight well," Thanos said, not even breathing hard. "But you fight without purpose. I fight to save the universe. What do you fight for? Pride, revenge, the illusion of control?" Batman stepped from the shadows behind him, moving with the silence of 2 decades hunting monsters in Gotham's alleys. He didn't announce himself, didn't monologue. He just jammed the modified EMP directly into the Gauntlet's neural interface and triggered it. The device detonated. Blue lightning arced through the Gauntlet, and for 3 seconds the stones flickered and dimmed. Thanos roared, staggered, and Batman was already moving, grapnel gun firing, pulling himself away as Tony's nanotech formed restraints around Thanos' arm. "Now, kid," Tony shouted. Peter swung in, webs firing in rapid streams, wrapping the Gauntlet in layers of synthetic spider silk strong enough to hold a ferry together. "Got it! I got it! I actually—" Thanos ripped his arm free. Webbing tore like tissue paper. Tony's restraints shattered, and the Mad Titan looked at Batman with something that might have been respect. "You almost succeeded," Thanos said. "Almost." He raised the Gauntlet, the Power Stone building to critical mass. "But in the end, you're still mortal, and mortals break." He punched the ground. The shockwave was planetary scale, a purple explosion of raw kinetic force that cracked Titan's crust and sent everyone flying. Tony slammed into a tower and felt 3 ribs crack. Peter hit the dirt and didn't move. Batman's cape wrapped around him reflexively, gliding him through the debris, but when he landed, his leg buckled. Broken. Green Lantern formed a shield just in time to avoid being crushed by falling rubble, but the impact drained his ring to 30%. And Strange's projection flickered, the connection to Earth fraying. Thanos stood in the center of the crater, breathing hard now. Gauntlet smoking. "You made me work for it." That's more than most can say. That's when the second portal opened. Not Strange's gold, not the Space Stone's blue. This one was green and howling with energy, and through it stepped Superman, cape scorched and bloodied from Wakanda, eyes glowing with heat vision barely restrained. He looked at Batman's broken leg, at Flash unconscious against the wall, at Cyborg's sparking armor, at Tony's cracked ribs, at Peter's still form. And he looked at Thanos. "You hurt my friends," Superman said quietly. "I don't know you," Thanos replied, studying this new arrival with calculating eyes. "But I will." Superman blurred forward. Thanos raised the gauntlet. The Power Stone flared. They collided, and Titan's moons shook in their orbits. The impact of Superman hitting Thanos was measured in seismic data, not sound. Titan's crust buckled, a fissure line racing across the plateau like a zipper being torn open, and both combatants vanished in a cloud of pulverized stone and ancient dust. Tony's HUD flickered, struggling to track movement that exceeded Mach 5 in a gravity well. 1 second Superman and Thanos were visible. The next they were a blur of blue, red, and purple smashing through the ruins of a civilization that had died for the sin of overpopulation. Batman dragged himself upright, his broken legs screaming, and activated the emergency medical injector in his gauntlet. Nanite-laced painkillers flooded his system, numbing the agony enough to think. Stark, status. Tony's faceplate flickered, nanotech repairing itself in real time. 3 cracked ribs, probable concussion, and a really deep desire to retire to a beach somewhere and never look at purple again. He staggered to Peter, who was groaning and trying to sit up, web shooters sparking. Kid, talk to me." "Mr. Stark?" Peter's voice was small behind his mask. "I think I broke my everything." "Welcome to the club. Membership fees are terrible." Tony helped him up, nanotech forming a support brace around Peter's torso. "Can you move?" Yeah, I'm okay." Peter looked at the crater where Superman and Thanos had disappeared. Is that guy really strong enough to fight Thanos alone?" "Strong enough to move planets," Batman said, limping over. "But strength isn't the problem. Thanos has 5 Infinity Stones. He can rewrite reality, teleport, drain life force, see souls, and hit with enough kinetic force to shatter moons. Superman is buying us time. We use it." Green Lantern descended, ring glowing faintly at 28% charge. "I can track them. Ring's picking up massive energy signatures 3 clicks northeast. They're tearing the planet apart." "Then we regroup and finish the plan," Batman said. He looked at Flash, still unconscious against the rubble, and at Cyborg, whose systems were rebooting with agonizing slowness. "Jordan, get Barry somewhere safe. Stark, you and Spider-Man extract Cyborg. Strange." He looked at the flickering projection. "Tell Wakanda we need Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Now." "They're holding the line against 10,000 Outriders." Strange's voice crackled through dimensional static. "If I pull them, Wakanda falls. If we don't stop Thanos here, there won't be a Wakanda left to save." Batman snapped. "Make the call." Strange's projection hesitated, then nodded and vanished. 3 kilometers away, Superman and Thanos crashed through the skeletal remains of what might have once been Titan's Capitol building. Superman's fists hammered into Thanos' face with the force of tectonic shifts, each punch creating shock waves that shattered windows in ruins a kilometer away. Thanos absorbed 3 hits, 4, 5, then caught the 6th with the gauntlet, the Power Stone flaring purple as he redirected the kinetic energy back into Superman's chest. Superman flew backward, smashing through 7 walls before he arrested his momentum, boots carving trenches in the stone. His cape was shredded. His suit was scorched. Blood trickled from his nose, red human blood, because Kryptonian biology only mimicked invulnerability until something hit hard enough to prove otherwise. "You're strong," Thanos said, walking through the hole Superman's body had made. "Stronger than Thor, stronger than Hulk, but strength without purpose is just noise." He raised the gauntlet, and the reality stone glowed. The ruins around them began to shift, stone turning to liquid, gravity inverting, the ground becoming sky, and the sky becoming an ocean of fire. Superman's heat vision lanced out, twin beams of solar energy hot enough to melt tungsten. Thanos raised his other hand, and the space stone opened a portal that swallowed the beams and redirected them back at Superman from 12 different angles. Superman twisted, dodging most, but one caught his shoulder, and he smelled his own flesh burning. "You fight like a warrior," Thanos continued, advancing through the warped landscape. "But you think like a hero. Heroes lose because they believe in fairness. I believe in necessity." He punched Superman with the Power Stone behind it. Superman blocked with his forearms, and the impact was nuclear, a sphere of purple energy expanding outward, vaporizing everything in a 100-meter radius. Superman flew backward again, this time carving a trench through Titan's surface deep enough to expose subsurface ice. He stood, slowly. His left arm hung at a wrong angle, dislocated shoulder, maybe fractured humerus. He popped it back into place with a wet crack and didn't even flinch. "You're right," Superman said quietly. "I do think like a hero, because heroes don't kill billions to save billions. They find another way." "There is no other way," Thanos said, and for the first time he sounded tired. "I've seen 1,000 worlds collapse under the weight of their own excess. I watched my homeworld die because we refused to make the hard choice. I will not let that happen to the universe." "Then you're not saving it," Superman said. "You're just spreading your trauma." Thanos' eyes narrowed. "You know nothing of trauma. I watched my entire species die when I was an infant. I'm the last son of a dead world." Superman's eyes glowed blue, heat vision building. "And I still don't think genocide is the answer." He blurred forward, faster than before, and this time, when his fist connected with Thanos' jaw, the mad Titan actually staggered. Superman pressed the advantage, a combination of punches and heat vision and tactical brutality learned from fighting Zod, Doomsday, Darkseid, gods and monsters who taught him that sometimes you had to hurt something to stop it. Thanos blocked, deflected, absorbed, but for the first time, he was on the defensive. The power. Stone flared with each impact, burning energy faster than the other stones could compensate. His armor cracked, his lips split, and in his eyes, Superman saw something dangerous. Respect. "You could have been magnificent," Thanos said, catching Superman's fist with the gauntlet. "In another life, we might have worked together." "I don't work with mass murderers," Superman said. "No. You just fight them alone while your allies scramble in the dirt." Thanos smiled, and the Soul Stone ignited orange. "Let me show you what you're fighting for." Superman screamed, not from pain, from vision. The Soul Stone ripped open his consciousness and flooded it with images, Earth burning, Lois dying in his arms, the Justice League slaughtered, billions turning to ash, and behind it all, Thanos sitting on his porch, watching the sunrise over a grateful universe. while Superman knelt in the ruins of Metropolis, holding the bodies of everyone he'd ever loved. "This is what happens if you win," Thanos whispered. "Half the universe survives. Your half might not be among them, but the species continues. The universe stabilizes. Resources replenish. Life goes on." Superman's vision cleared. He looked at Thanos with eyes that had seen the heat death of stars and hadn't blinked. "Then I'll save both halves, because that's what heroes do." He headbutted Thanos. The Gauntlet's gems flickered, and Superman grabbed Thanos' wrist, heat vision burning into the metal, trying to melt it, warp it, anything to get it off. Thanos roared and activated the space stone. A portal opened beneath them, and they fell through into the void between dimensions, a place where physics was a suggestion and reality was negotiable. They tumbled through kaleidoscope emptiness, still fighting, Superman's punches creating ripples in non-space, Thanos' Power Stone blasts tearing holes in the fabric of potential. Back on Titan, Wong's portal snapped open and Wonder Woman stepped through, followed by Aquaman. Both were covered in alien blood, Wonder Woman's sword notched in 3 places, Aquaman's quindent glowing with residual energy from drowning an army. Batman looked at them. "Wakanda." "Holding," Wonder Woman said. "Barely. Your Flash and Green Lantern teammate are there now providing aerial support. T'Challa sends his regards and a request that we please not let the universe end." "Working on it," Batman said. He gestured to the crater. Superman engaged Thanos. "They're somewhere between here and the quantum realm, probably punching holes in space-time. We need to extract them before Thanos uses the stones to trap Kal in a singularity." "Can he do that?" Tony asked. "He has the space and reality stones," Batman said flatly. "He can do anything." Aquaman hefted his quindent. "Then we go get him. Where's the portal?" Cyborg's systems flickered online, his voice distorted. "Tracking. Energy signature. 3-dimensional space is collapsed. They're fighting in a realm adjacent to ours. Can open a bridge, but it'll be unstable." "Do it," Wonder Woman commanded. Cyborg's hands extended, tech interfacing with the fabric of reality itself, and a jagged tear opened in the air. Not Wong's clean portal, but a wound, bleeding light and sound and things that didn't have names. Through it, they saw Superman and Thanos locked in combat, moving too fast to track, reality bending around them like taffy. Wonder Woman didn't hesitate. She dove through. Aquaman followed. Batman looked at Tony. "We're not equipped for dimensional warfare," Tony said. "No," Batman agreed, "but we're equipped for strategy." He activated his cowl's communicator. "Strange, I need a favor." In Wakanda, Strange's real body opened his eyes in Shuri's lab, the time stone pulsing green. "I'm listening." "Can you force a temporal loop? Lock Thanos and Superman in the same 3 seconds of combat until we can remove the gauntlet?" "That's..." Strange paused. "Incredibly dangerous. If I trap Superman, I trap him with Thanos. He'll be reliving the same fight forever until I release him." "Then we make those 3 seconds count," Batman said. "And we trust that Superman can last long enough for us to save him." Strange looked at Wong. Wong nodded, and Strange pressed his hands together, the eye of Agamotto opening fully. "Dormammu," Strange whispered. "I learned this from you." Time stuttered. In the space between dimensions, Superman's fist connected with Thanos' face, and the moment looped. Punch, impact, recoil, reset. Punch, impact, recoil, reset. Again, again, again. Thanos' eyes widened as he realized he was trapped, and he reached for the time stone on his gauntlet only to remember it wasn't there. "No," Thanos snarled. "No." Superman felt the loop engage and understood instantly. He'd fought in temporal anomalies before. Fought Brainiac's time dilators, Flash's speed mirages. He knew what Strange was doing, and he made every loop count. Adjusted his punch 2 degrees, aimed for the gauntlet's connectors. Each repetition, he hit fractionally harder, faster, more precise. And on the 47th loop, something cracked. The gauntlet's thumb joint fractured. Not much, just enough. Wonder Woman burst through the dimensional tear with her lasso of truth, the golden rope humming with divine magic. She whipped it forward, and it wrapped around Thanos' gauntlet arm, burning through the Reality Stone's illusions because truth was the one thing reality couldn't fake. "By Hera's command," Wonder Woman growled, "you will release that weapon." The lasso flared, and Thanos screamed. Not from pain, from revelation. The lasso forced him to confront his own truth, that he wasn't saving the universe. He was inflicting his pain on it. That Gamora's death hadn't been noble sacrifice, but murder. That he was a broken creature justifying horror with mathematics. "I am saving," Thanos gasped. "You are destroying," Wonder Woman said, "and you know it." Aquaman drove his quindent into the ground of non-space, and water erupted. Impossible water, pulled from dimensional rifts, from the spaces between atoms, from the concept of ocean itself. It wrapped around Thanos' legs, freezing him in place, and Aquaman's eyes glowed green as he channeled every ounce of Atlantean power into holding a Titan. "Superman!" Aquaman grunted. "The gauntlet, now!" Superman grabbed the fractured thumb joint and pulled. The loop broke. Time snapped forward, and the gauntlet began to slide. Thanos activated the Power Stone in desperation, a purple nova expanding outward that would kill everyone in its radius. Wonder Woman raised her bracelets, crossing them, absorbing the blast. The impact drove her to her knees, but she held. Aquaman's water turned to steam, but he didn't let go. And Superman, feeling his skin blister and his bones creak, pulled harder. The gauntlet came off. For one perfect second, Thanos was mortal, just a strong alien with delusions of grandeur. And in that second, Batman's voice crackled through the comms. "Strange, portal, now." A golden portal snapped open beneath the gauntlet, and it fell through, disappearing into Earth's dimensional coordinates. Thanos lunged for it, but Superman grabbed him by the throat and slammed him into the non-ground of the dimensional space. "It's over," Superman said. Thanos looked up at him and laughed. It was a horrible sound, wet and broken and tinged with something that might have been relief. "You think removing the gauntlet ends this?" Thanos wheezed. "I am inevitable. The stones are inevitable. They'll find their way back to me, or to someone like me, because the universe demands balance." "Then we'll fight that battle when it comes," Wonder Woman said, standing over him with her sword drawn. "But this battle, you lost." Thanos closed his eyes. "No, I've merely been delayed." Cyborg's portal snapped shut, severing the dimensional space from Titan. The four heroes fell through reality, tumbling back into normal space-time, and landed in the ruins where Tony, Peter, and Batman waited. Superman set Thanos down. The mad Titan didn't resist, didn't fight. He just sat in the dust of his dead home world and stared at his empty hand. "What now?" Peter asked quietly. Batman looked at the broken Titan, then at the portal where the gauntlet had vanished. Now we make sure the stones never fall into anyone's hands again, and we finish this war. Tony's HUD pinged. Bat guy. We've got a problem. What? The Black Order. Corvus, Glaive, and Proxima Midnight just breached Wakanda's barrier, and they're heading straight for Shuri's lab. Straight for Vision. Superman's jaw clenched. Then we go back. Cal, Wonder Woman said quietly. You're injured. You've been fighting a Titan with Infinity Stones. You need to rest. People are dying, Superman said. I don't get to rest. He took off, cape streaming behind him, disappearing into the sky. Wonder Woman looked at Aquaman. He's going to get himself killed. He's a hero, Aquaman said. It's what we do. Batman activated his grapnel. Then let's make sure he doesn't die alone. Thanos sat in the ruins, watching them leave, and in his empty hand, he felt the ghost of the Gauntlet's weight. This isn't over, he whispered to himself. But the heroes were already gone. Wakanda's rivers ran red. Not with blood, though there was plenty of that, but with the bioluminescent ichor of 10,000 dead outriders, their corpses piled so high along the barrier breach that Mibaku's warriors were using them as makeshift ramparts. The air tasted like ozone and scorched earth. Vibranium rounds still hot enough to shimmer as they cooled in alien flesh, and the Dora Milahi's war chants had devolved into the rhythmic grunt of exhausted soldiers who'd been killing for 3 hours straight without rest. T'Challa stood atop the mound of corpses, claws extended, suit absorbing kinetic energy with every impact until he glowed purple-white, a beacon of Wakandan fury. Okoye fought beside him, spear moving in patterns too fast to track, each thrust finding throats, eyes, the soft tissue behind chitinous armor. Steve Rogers' shield was dented as 4 places, his super soldier serum the only thing keeping his arms from falling off. But he kept swinging, kept blocking, kept fighting because that's what he'd done since 1943, and he didn't know how to stop. Bucky's rifle had run dry 20 minutes ago. Now he fought with a Wakandan spear in his human hand and his vibranium fist punching through skulls. Sam's wings were bent, repulsors sputtering, but he stayed airborne, strafing runs turning outrider clusters into meat. Rhodey's war machine armor was at 30% power, every missile pod empty, reduced to punching and repulsor blasts. And Bruce Banner piloted the Hulkbuster like a man possessed, fists hammering, feet stomping, hydraulics screaming as he crushed aliens by the dozen. But they were losing ground. Slowly, inevitably. For every 100 outriders they killed, 200 more poured through the gap. That's when the sky split green. Not a portal, a construct. Green Lantern descended like an emerald comet, his ring blazing at 94% charge after feeding on his sheer stubborn refusal to let another planet fall, and he threw his arms wide. A dome of solid willpower snapped into existence over the breach, replacing Wakanda's failing energy barrier with something stronger. Hal Jordan's absolute conviction that not one more alien was getting through. The Outriders slammed into the construct and stopped. Just stopped. Claws scraped against green energy, teeth gnashed, but the barrier held. "Somebody order air support," Green Lantern called down, grinning despite the sweat pouring down his face. T'Challa looked up, saw the dome, and actually laughed, high and wild and disbelieving. "Who are you?" "Hal Jordan, Green Lantern Corps, Sector 2814. Hal's ring flared, and construct turrets materialized along the dome's interior, opening fire with emerald machine gun rounds that tore through Outrider ranks. And I brought friends. Flash phased through the barrier, literally through it, molecules vibrating at frequencies that let him slip between the gaps in reality, and appeared in the middle of the Outrider swarm. He moved like lightning given form, fists blurring, each punch accelerated to relativistic speeds. An Outrider lunged at him. He dodged, grabbed it mid-leap, and vibrated his hand through its chest, stopping its heart without breaking skin. Another charged. He ran circles around it at Mach 4 until the friction ignited the air and the creature burst into flames. "Okay," Flash said, skidding to a stop beside Steve. "I fought Gorilla Grodd, Reverse Flash, and a telepathic starfish. But alien dog monsters? That's new." Steve stared at him. "How fast are you?" "Fast enough." Flash blurred again, and in 3 seconds he'd relocated every injured Wakandan soldier to the medical tents. "Also, hi. Barry Allen, the Flash. Nice shield." "Thanks," Steve said. "I've had it a while." An Outrider tried to flank them. Flash didn't even look. He just vibrated his molecules and let it pass through him, then tapped it on the shoulder. When it turned, confused, he punched it so fast his fist was already back at his side before the creature realized it was dead. "Show off," Steve muttered, but he was smiling. In Shuri's lab, the walls shook. Vision lay on the operating table. The Mind Stone halfway extracted, glowing tendrils of yellow energy still connected to his neural cortex. Wanda knelt beside him, one hand maintaining the delicate chaos magic lattice that kept Vision's consciousness stable while Shuri worked. The princess's hands moved through holographic interfaces, faster than Bruce could track, isolating neurons, rerouting synaptic pathways, performing neurosurgery on a synthetic brain that shouldn't exist. 92% extraction, Shuri announced, sweat pouring down her temples. "Vision, can you still hear me?" Yes." Vision's voice was weak, distorted. "Wanda, you're crying." "I'm not," Wanda lied, tears streaming down her face. "You're a terrible liar." Vision's hand found hers. "If this is goodbye—" "It's not goodbye," Wanda snapped. "You don't get to die on me. Not today. Not ever." The wall exploded. Not cracked, exploded, vibranium-reinforced concrete vaporizing under a focused energy beam that turned solid matter into plasma. Through the smoke stepped Corvus Glaive, 8 feet of pale alien muscle wrapped in black armor. His glaive humming with energy that could cut through anything, even Vision's synthetic tissue. Beside him, Proxima Midnight twirled her spear, the 3-pronged weapon crackling with electricity designed to shut down nervous systems on contact. "The stone," Corvus hissed, his voice like metal scraping stone. "Give it to us, and your deaths will be swift." Shuri didn't look up from her work. "I'm on a schedule. Come back in 10 minutes. Proxima laughed. "The child has humor. I'll enjoy killing her last." Bruce roared and charged in the Hulkbuster, hydraulic fists swinging. Corvus sidestepped, glaive flashing, and the blade carved through the Hulkbuster's arm like it was tin foil. Sparks exploded. Bruce stumbled. Proxima's spear lanced forward, slamming into the armor's chest, and 50,000 volts surged through the suit. Bruce screamed, systems failing, and collapsed. Wanda stood, red energy exploding around her like a supernova. "You hurt my friends." She threw her hands forward, and chaos magic slammed into Proxima with the force of a collapsing star. The alien flew backward, crashed through 3 walls, and didn't get up. Corvus lunged at Wanda with his glaive. She caught the blade mid-swing with a telekinetic grip, red energy wrapping around the weapon, and she squeezed. The glaive cracked. Corvus's eyes widened. "Impossible," he breathed. "I've had a bad day," Wanda said, and ripped the glaive in half with her mind. Corvus staggered back, weaponless, staring at his broken blade. Then he smiled. "My master is inevitable." "Your master," said a voice from the hole in the wall, "is about to learn what happens when you threaten my patience." Superman stepped through, cape torn, suit scorched, blood dried on his face, eyes glowing faint blue. He looked at Corvus, looked at Proxima, who was pulling herself from the rubble, looked at Vision on the table, vulnerable and dying. "Walk away," Superman said quietly. "Last chance." Corvus laughed. "You're injured, exhausted. You can barely stand. What can you possibly—" Superman moved. Not flew, moved, crossing the distance between them in a microsecond, and his fist connected with Corvus's jaw with enough force to send shock waves through the lab. Corvus flew through the wall, through the corridor beyond, through the outer palace wall, and didn't stop until he hit the Wakandan mountainside 3 kilometers away. Proxima stared. "You—" Wonder Woman's lasso wrapped around her throat. "Speak honestly. Where are the rest of the Black Order?" The lasso flared gold, and Proxima gasped, her body convulsing as the lasso forced truth from her lips. "Dead. Ebony Maw fell to your Superman in New York. Cull obsidian drowned in the rivers. Corvus and I are the last." "Good," Wonder Woman said, and head butted her. Proxima went limp. Aquaman stepped through the hole, quindant glowing. "I leave you alone for 10 minutes and you start a war in a hospital?" "It's a lab," Shuri corrected, still working, not even looking at the carnage. "And if you all could kindly shut up, I'm trying to save a life here." 98%, Vision whispered. "Shuri, you're remarkable." "I know." Shuri's hands flew through the final sequences, neural bridges severing, pathways rerouting, and with a flash of yellow light, the Mind Stone separated from Vision's forehead. He gasped, body seizing, and then went still. "Vision!" Wanda screamed. "He's not dead," Shuri said quickly, scanners lighting up. "His consciousness is intact, neural pathways stable. He's just rebooting. Give him a minute." "We don't have a minute," Superman said, looking at the Mind Stone hovering in Shuri's containment field. "If Thanos is coming for this—" The palace roof exploded. Not from weapons, from a portal. The Space Stone's blue energy spiraled open, and through it stepped Thanos, his armor dented, his face bruised, but his eyes burning with single-minded purpose. He didn't have the gauntlet. They'd taken it on Titan. But in his hand, he held something worse. A jagged piece of Uru metal, salvaged from the ruins of Nidavellir, enchanted by dying dwarf kings to channel the stone's power without the gauntlet structure. "I am inevitable," Thanos said, and the makeshift conduit in his hand ignited with the light of 5 infinity stones. Superman stepped in front of the Mind Stone. "Not today." Thanos raised his hand, and the Power Stone fired. Superman crossed his arms, absorbed the blast, and the impact cratered the floor beneath him, drove him to one knee, but he didn't fall. Thanos fired again. Superman gritted his teeth, felt his bones creak, and held. "Kal!" Wonder Woman charged. Sword raised, and Thanos caught the blade with his bare hand. It cut deep, purple blood welling, but he didn't let go. He just twisted, snapped the sword in half, and backhanded her through the wall. Aquaman roared and drove his quindent at Thanos' chest. The space stone flared, opened a portal, and the quindent passed through empty air. The portal closed behind Aquaman, and he stumbled forward off balance. Thanos grabbed him by the throat and hurled him into Superman. Both went down in a tangle of limbs. "The stone," Thanos said, advancing on Shuri's lab table. "Give it to me, child, and I'll make your death painless." "No," Wanda said, stepping between them, red energy spiraling around her like a hurricane. "You don't get to hurt anyone else. Not him, not Vision, not anyone." Thanos looked at her, and something that might have been pity crossed his face. "You love him. With everything I am. Then you understand." Thanos raised the conduit, the reality stone glowing. Love requires sacrifice. He fired. Wanda threw up a shield, red meeting red, chaos magic against reality manipulation, and the lab screamed as two fundamental forces collided. The walls bent, the ceiling cracked. Shuri's equipment exploded, and Wanda's nose began to bleed, then her ears, then her eyes. "I can't hold," she gasped. Superman struggled to his feet, every muscle screaming, vision blurring. He'd fought Thanos with the Gauntlet on Titan. He'd pushed himself past every limit. His reserves were gone, his solar energy depleted. But he looked at Wanda, saw her breaking under the weight of a Titan's will, and he found something deeper than strength. He found stubbornness. Superman blurred forward, grabbed Thanos around the waist, and flew. Not up, down. He drove Thanos through the lab floor, through the sub-levels, through Wakanda's vibranium deposits, through bedrock and mantle, down into the planet's crust where the heat was enough to melt steel. And he didn't let go. Thanos roared, the power stone flaring, punching Superman in the ribs. Bones cracked. Superman punched back and Thanos' jaw fractured. They fell deeper, trading blows in the dark, two titans trying to kill each other with the planet as their arena. Above, in the lab, Wanda collapsed. The reality stone's assault stopped. Vision's eyes flickered open. "Wanda!" His voice was faint, confused. "What happened?" "You're alive," Wanda sobbed, crawling to him. "You're alive, and I'm never letting you out of my sight again." Wonder Woman pulled herself from the rubble, bleeding from a dozen cuts, and looked at the hole Superman had made. "We need to help him." "No," Batman's voice crackled over the comms. He'd arrived via Wakandan transport, limping into the lab with Tony and Peter behind him. "We need to end this. Jordan, can your ring reach subterranean?" "Yeah, but do it. Alan, phase down there and extract Superman. Aquaman, can you channel groundwater to flush Thanos into a tighter space?" "Already on it." Aquaman drove his quindent into the floor, and 3 kilometers down, Superman felt water surge around him, pushing Thanos away, giving him room to breathe. Flash vibrated through the floor, grabbed Superman, and vibrated both of them back up. They materialized in the lab, Superman barely conscious, and Flash set him down gently. "I got you, man. I got you." Green Lantern's ring extended downward, a construct drill boring through stone, and when it reached Thanos, it wrapped around him like a cage, pulling him up through layers of earth and depositing him in the center of the lab, contained in a sphere of emerald willpower. Thanos stood inside the construct, breathing hard, armor shattered, blood streaming from a dozen wounds. He looked at the heroes surrounding him, battered, exhausted, but standing, and he smiled. "You can't kill me. he said. "I'm the only one with the will to do what's necessary." "You're not necessary," Steve Rogers said, limping forward with his shield. "You're just broken." "And you're about to be arrested," T'Challa added, entering with Okoye and 50 Dora Milaje warriors. "By the authority of Wakanda, the kingdom of..." The space stone flared in Thanos' conduit. A portal opened, and Thanos stepped through, the construct shattering like glass, leaving only his voice echoing behind. "This isn't over. The universe will remember my name." The portal closed. Silence fell. "He's gone," Green Lantern said quietly. "For now," Batman replied. "But he'll be back. They always come back." Superman sat up slowly, ribs grinding, and looked at the Mind Stone in its containment field. "What do we do with it?" "We scatter them," Strange's voice said, his projection materializing. "The 6 Infinity Stones, we send them to 6 different dimensions, 6 realities where Thanos can't follow." "And if someone in those dimensions finds them?" Tony asked. "Then we hope they're better than us," Strange said. Vision stood, Wanda supporting him, and looked at the stone that had been part of him. "I am less now, but I am still me." "You're more," Wanda said. "You chose to live. That makes you human." Outside, the sun began to set over Wakanda. The Outriders were dead or fleeing. The Black Order was scattered. Thanos was gone, and for the first time in hours, the heroes allowed themselves to breathe. They'd won. Barely. But they'd won. The Wakandan throne room had become a war council chamber. Holographic displays floated in the air, courtesy of Shuri's technology and Cyborg's interfacing, showing real-time feeds from across the globe. New York's sanctum sanctorum, the wreckage on Titan, orbital scans tracking Thanos' energy signature as it flickered across dimensional boundaries like a ghost. The room smelled like disinfectant and vibranium dust, every surface still scorched from the battle, and the assembled heroes looked less like Earth's defenders and more like survivors of a war they hadn't finished fighting. T'Challa sat on his throne, the Black Panther suit retracted to show his face, eyes red-rimmed from exhaustion but sharp with tactical focus. Okoye stood at his right, spear planted, her ceremonial armor replaced with combat-worn plates. M'Baku leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, while Shuri manipulated holographic data streams with fingers that hadn't stopped moving for 6 hours. Steve Rogers stood with Bucky and Sam, the 3 of them looking like ghosts from another era, faces carved from the same stone as men who'd stormed Normandy. Tony Stark sat on the floor because his armor's power core was at 4%, and if he stood up, he'd fall over. Peter Parker sat beside him, mask off, looking young and terrified, and trying very hard not to show either. Bruce Banner had given up on the Hulkbuster entirely and now wore borrowed Wakandan clothes 3 sizes too big. Rhodey's war machine armor was powered down, draped over a maintenance rack, and he stood in the flight suit underneath, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Rocket Raccoon sat on Groot's shoulder, tail twitching, while Nebula stood apart from everyone, her cybernetic eyes cycling through threat assessments on infinite loop because she didn't know how to stop. And then there was the Justice League. Superman floated 3 inches off the ground because standing hurt too much, his suit torn across the chest where the Power Stone had burned through invulnerable skin. Wonder Woman's armor was dented, her shield cracked down the middle, but she stood with the posture of a warrior who'd fought in the Trojan War and knew that wars didn't end just because the battle stopped. Aquaman leaned on his quindent, salt water still dripping from his hair, while Green Lantern's ring pulsed at 62%. The construct dome outside still holding against scattered Outrider stragglers. Flash vibrated slightly, unable to stand completely still, molecules still humming with adrenaline. Cyborg's systems ran diagnostics on loop, red eye flickering as he tried to predict Thanos' next move from incomplete data. And Batman stood in the shadows near the throne steps, cape wrapped around him, white lenses glowing, a predator in a room of soldiers. Doctor Strange's astral projection materialized in the center of the room, the time stone's glow visible even through dimensional translation. Wong stood beside him, hands folded, looking like a man who'd aged a century in a day. "We need to talk about the stones," Strange said without preamble. "We need to talk about Thanos," Steve countered. "He escaped, with access to 5 Infinity Stones through that jury-rigged conduit. Where is he?" "Everywhere and nowhere," Strange replied, gesturing to the holographic displays. "The Space Stone lets him move between dimensions. I've tried tracking him with the Time Stone, but he's learned to move outside of temporal causality. He exists in quantum states. Here, not here. Both simultaneously. Schrodinger's genocidal titan." "Speak English," Rocket snapped. "He's hiding in the spaces between realities," Cyborg translated. "Using the Space Stone to phase shift across dimensional frequencies. We can't track him because he's not in any one place long enough to register." "Then how do we stop him?" T'Challa asked. "We don't," Batman said quietly. Every head turned toward him. "We can't. Not directly. Thanos has demonstrated tactical genius, overwhelming power, and ideological commitment that borders on religious fanaticism. He's fought gods, slaughtered armies, and survived planetary annihilation. Hunting him is a losing strategy." "So what?" Tony's voice was sharp, brittle. "We just let him go? Wait for him to rebuild the Gauntlet and try again?" "No," Batman said. "We remove the board. The Infinity Stones are the source of his power. Without them, he's just a very strong alien with delusions of grandeur. We scatter the stones across dimensions where he can't reach them, and we make sure no single entity ever has access to more than one." "I've been thinking the same thing," Strange said, and there was something in his voice. Reluctance, fear, resignation. "The stones are too dangerous. Together, they represent omnipotence. Separated, they're manageable. Still lethal, still world-ending, but manageable." "Where do we send them?" Wonder Woman asked. Strange waved his hand, and 6 holographic windows opened, each showing a different reality. "I've mapped 6 stable dimensions, each with unique physical laws that make them inhospitable to the stone's native universe. Dimension Beta 7, a universe where entropy runs backward. Time flows in reverse. The Time Stone would be functionally inert there. Dimension Sigma 9, a realm of pure energy. No matter, no physical form. The Power Stone would have nothing to destroy. Dimension Omega 3, a dead universe. No life, no souls, no consciousness. The Soul Stone would starve." "And the others?" Shuri asked, fingers dancing across her interface, recording every detail. "The Space Stone goes to a dimension locked in spatial stasis. No movement, no change in position. The Reality Stone to a universe where physical laws are absolute and cannot be altered. And the Mind Stone..." Strange paused. "The Mind Stone is the problem." Vision stood, Wanda's hand still in his voice steady despite the hole in his forehead where the stone had been extracted. "The Mind Stone is sentient, or at least It was becoming sentient through me. If you send it somewhere, it will try to return. It will corrupt whoever finds it, make them want to bring the stones back together. Then we destroy it, Nebula said flatly. Melt it down, atomize it, end the threat. We can't, Tony said, standing with effort. I've run the numbers. The stones are condensed singularities from the Big Bang. Destroying one would release enough energy to crack Earth's crust, maybe sterilize the solar system. The stones don't break. They can't break. That's the problem. Then we guard it, Superman said. Send it somewhere and I'll stand watch. Forever, if that's what it takes. Cal, no, Wonder Woman said sharply. You're not exiling yourself to another dimension for eternity because these people can't solve their own problem. It's not their problem anymore, Superman countered. Thanos threatened the multiverse. That makes it everyone's problem, including ours. He's right, Batman said. But he's also wrong. Superman guarding the Mind Stone forever is a single point of failure. What happens when he sleeps? When he's injured? When someone or something in that dimension finds a way to exploit him? Then what do you suggest? Steve asked. Batman looked at Strange. You said the Mind Stone is sentient. Can it be reasoned with? Strange blinked. I don't know. No one's ever tried. Then we try. Batman walked to the containment field where the Mind Stone hovered, glowing faint yellow, pulsing with a rhythm that almost resembled breathing. He stared at it, and the stone pulsed faster, as if recognizing something in him. You're a weapon. But weapons don't exist in isolation. They're tools wielded by intent. And right now, your intent is survival. The stone flared. Once, twice, a pattern, almost like communication. It's responding, Shuri breathed, her scanners lighting up. Neural activity detected. Electromagnetic patterns consistent with thought processes. It's thinking. Batman pressed his hand against the containment field. You've been part of vision. You've experienced consciousness, choice, morality. You know what it means to be more than a tool. So here's the deal. We send you somewhere safe, somewhere isolated, and you stay dormant. You don't corrupt. You don't call out to people. You sleep. And in exchange, we don't try to destroy you, and we don't let Thanos use you to kill half the universe. The stone pulsed again, slower, a consideration. Can a cosmic artifact negotiate? Flash asked. Everything negotiates when survival is on the line, Batman said. The stone flared bright, then dimmed to a soft glow. I think we have an agreement. You just made a deal with a primordial force of reality, Tony said. That's either genius or insane. Both, Batman said. Usually both. T'Challa stood from his throne. Then we move forward with a plan. Dr. Strange, prepare the dimensional rifts. We send the stones to 6 realities, and we make sure no one, not Thanos, not anyone, can bring them back together. There's one problem, Wong said quietly. Opening 6 stable dimensional portals simultaneously will require immense power. The kind of power that will light up every magical radar in the multiverse. If there are other threats out there, other beings who want the stones, this will tell them exactly where we are. Then we do it fast, Green Lantern said. Rings at 60%. I can generate containment fields for each stone during transport. Make sure they don't destabilize the portals. I can phase them through dimensional barriers, Flash added. Get them to their destinations before anyone realizes what's happening. And I can interface with Strange's magic, Cyborg said. Provide targeting data. Calculate optimal dimensional coordinates. Make sure we're sending them to stable realities and not collapsing universes. We'll need protection during the ritual, Wonder Woman said. If Thanos realizes what we're doing, he'll attack. This room becomes the most important strategic position in the universe for the next 10 minutes. Then we defend it, Steve said, picking up his shield. Wakanda's already proven we can hold the line. We'll do it again. Aquaman hefted his quindent. And if Thanos comes through that door, I'll personally drown him in water pulled from every ocean in this dimension. He wants to bring balance. I'll balance his lungs with seawater. Shuri pulled up security feeds showing the palace perimeter. The Outriders are scattered but not gone. If they regroup, they won't, Okoye interrupted. My warriors are hunting the survivors. By dawn, there won't be an Outrider left alive in Wakanda. Good, T'Challa said. Then we focus on the stones. Shuri, coordinate with Cyborg and Strange. Make sure the dimensional calculations are perfect. One mistake, and we could tear a hole in reality that never closes. No pressure, Shuri muttered. But her fingers were already flying across holographic interfaces. Strange closed his eyes, hands moving in intricate patterns as golden mandalas spiraled into existence around him. The eye of Agamotto opened fully, the time stone's green light flooding the room, and 6 smaller mandalas appeared in a circle, each one a doorway to a different reality. Portal 1. Dimension Beta 7, Strange intoned. Time flows backward, entropy reverses. Perfect prison for the time stone. Wong held up the time stone, its glow reflecting in his eyes. If I send this through, I lose the ability to manipulate time on Earth. No more rewinding, no more looking forward. Then we pray we don't need it, Strange said. Wong nodded and threw the time stone through the portal. It vanished into green light, and the portal sealed with a sound like a thunderclap. Portal 2, Dimension Sigma 9. Pure energy, no physical matter. The second portal opened, crackling with blue-white lightning. Green Lantern's ring pulled the power stone from its containment field, wrapped it in an emerald construct, and sent it through. The portal closed. Portal 3, Dimension Omega 3, Dead Universe, no life. The third portal yawned open like a mouth, darkness beyond darkness. The Soul Stone floated through, its orange glow fading into the void. Portal 4, Spatial Stasis Dimension. A fourth portal, perfectly still, not even air moving through it. Flash grabbed the space stone, vibrated to match the portal's frequency, and deposited it on the other side in less than a heartbeat. The portal sealed. Portal 5, Absolute Physical Law Dimension. The reality stone hovered toward its prison, red energy crackling with resistance. It didn't want to go. Strange gritted his teeth, forcing the portal wider, and the stone finally passed through with a scream that wasn't quite sound. Portal 6, Strange said, sweat pouring down his face. Isolated reality, low-dimensional traffic, the Mind Stone's new home. Batman looked at the stone one last time. Remember our deal? The stone pulsed. Once. Acknowledgement. Flash carried it through the final portal, and it sealed behind him. The 6 mandalas collapsed. Strange staggered, Wong catching him. The room fell silent except for the hum of Wakandan technology and the distant sounds of warriors chanting victory songs. It's done, Strange whispered. The Infinity Stones are scattered. Thanos has nothing left to collect. Then what does he do now? Peter asked quietly. The answer came 30 seconds later. Every holographic display in the room flickered, died, and was replaced by a single image. Thanos, sitting on a throne made of shattered starships, his face bruised and bloody, the makeshift conduit still in his hand, but dark and powerless. "Clever," Thanos said, his voice echoing through the room despite there being no speakers. Cyborg's eye flickered. The signal was being broadcast directly into every electronic device on Earth simultaneously. "You've taken my tools, scattered my salvation across realities I cannot reach. You think this stops me?" "It does," Superman said, floating forward to face the hologram. "You're done, Thanos. No stones, no gauntlet, no way to accomplish your insane plan." Thanos smiled. It was the saddest thing any of them had ever seen. "You think the stones were the only way? I balanced Gamora's planet with a blade in my own 2 hands. I brought order to 100 worlds before I ever touched an infinity stone. The stones were mercy, quick, painless, random. Without them?" His smile widened. "I'll do it the old way. Planet by planet, species by species. I'll carve balance into the universe with fire and blood until every world understands that I was right." The hologram flickered. "You've won the battle, but the war has just begun, and I am inevitable." The transmission cut. The displays returned to normal, and every hero in the room felt the weight of what they'd just unleashed. "We didn't stop him," Tony said quietly. "We just made him angrier." "No," Batman said. "We changed the paradigm. Thanos with Infinity Stones was unstoppable. Thanos without them is just a warlord with an army. Warlords can be beaten. Armies can be defeated. We fight this war the old-fashioned way." "And how's that?" Rocket asked. Batman's white lenses glowed in the shadows. "Together." Superman looked at Wonder Woman, at Aquaman, at the Flash, Green Lantern, Cyborg. Then he looked at the Avengers, at the Guardians, at Wakanda's warriors. He's right. Thanos is still out there. Still a threat, but he's mortal now, and mortals can fail. "We'll need a plan," Steve said. "A real one. Coordinated defense across multiple worlds, intelligence networks, early warning systems." "We'll need more than that," T'Challa added. "We'll need unity, between nations, between species, between universes if necessary." "We'll build it," Shuri said, already pulling up architectural plans for a new kind of facility. "A command center, shared technology, integrated defenses. If Thanos wants a war across the cosmos, we'll give him one he can't win." Wonder Woman stepped forward, standing between both teams. "In my world, when warriors fight together and survive, they become something more than allies. They become family. I don't know how long we'll be in your universe, but while we're here, we fight as one." Steve extended his hand. "Avengers and Justice League. Has a nice ring to it." Wonder Woman gripped his hand. "Don't make me regret this, Captain." "Wouldn't dream of it, Princess." Outside, the Wakandan sun set over a battlefield littered with alien corpses and broken weapons. The Dora Milaje sang songs of victory. M'Baku's warriors drank and laughed, and somewhere in the stars, Thanos watched, planned, and waited. The Infinity Stones were gone. But the war for the universe's soul had only just begun. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for the cracks to show. Not in the defenses. Shuri's integrated early warning network was a masterpiece of Wakandan vibranium processors interfaced with Cyborg's mother box technology and Green Lantern's Ring's computational matrix. Not in the strategy. Batman and Tony Stark had created a tactical database that predicted Thanos' possible attack vectors with 87% accuracy. Not even in morale, the combined forces of Earth's heroes had repelled 3 more Black Order splinter cell attacks, dismantled 2 Outrider hatcheries in the Kuiper Belt, and successfully evacuated 4 frontier worlds that Thanos' advanced scouts had marked for culling. No, the cracks showed in the quiet moments, in the spaces between battles when soldiers became people again and had to confront what they'd done and what they'd become. The Avengers compound in upstate New York had been rebuilt in record time, now serving as the primary coordination hub for what Steve Rogers had reluctantly agreed to call the Unified Defense Initiative. The main conference room was the size of a basketball court. Holographic displays covering every wall, showing real-time feeds from Wakanda, the sanctum sanctorum, Atlantis. Aquaman had opened diplomatic channels to Earth's oceans, and a dozen orbital platforms. But right now, the displays were dark because the room only held 2 people, and they weren't talking about strategy. Tony Stark sat at the conference table with a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. Batman stood by the window, cowl pulled back to reveal Bruce Wayne's face, which somehow looked older than Tony remembered, despite them being roughly the same age. "You built a contingency plan to kill Superman," Tony said. "Not an accusation, a statement." "Yes." "And Wonder Woman?" "Yes." "Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Cyborg?" "Yes." Tony took a breath. "That's what I would do, what I have done. Contingencies for everyone on the team in case they go rogue. Hulk, Thor, Steve if he ever snapped, even Peter, God help me." He finally drank the whiskey. "So why does it feel different when you say it?" Bruce turned from the window. "Because you build contingencies out of fear. I build them out of certainty." "That's not reassuring." "It's not meant to be. It's meant to be honest." Bruce walked to the table but didn't sit. "In my universe, Superman once fell under the control of a telepathic starfish that turned him into a weapon against humanity. Wonder Woman was corrupted by a war god and nearly started World War III. Flash accidentally created a timeline where the world ended in nuclear fire. Every single one of them has been compromised, controlled, or broken at some point. And every time I've had to be ready to stop them." "That sounds exhausting." "It is. But someone has to be the insurance policy. Someone has to be willing to make the hard call when gods forget they can bleed." Bruce's voice was flat, clinical. "Your team is different. You're all human, enhanced or not. Fallible. Mortal. You police each other through consequence and law. My team operates above law, above consequence. They're myths that happen to eat breakfast. So yes, I have plans to kill them all, because I love them enough to stop them if they become the threat." Tony stared at him. "I can't decide if that's the most paranoid thing I've ever heard or the most responsible." "Both. It's always both." The door opened and Steve Rogers entered, still wearing his tactical gear from the morning's training exercise, shield strapped to his back. He looked at Tony, then at Bruce, and his jaw tightened. "We have a problem." "We have 100 problems," Tony said. "Which one is currently on fire?" "Thor." Steve pulled up a holographic display. It showed the wreckage of a bar in Oslo, walls cratered, furniture matchwood, and in the center of the destruction, Thor Odinson sat with his back against a collapsed pillar, Stormbreaker across his lap, drunk and laughing at nothing. He's been drinking for 16 hours straight, picked a fight with a biker gang, put 3 of them in the hospital. When the police arrived, He threatened to call down lightning if they touched him. Is he still there? Bruce asked. Rocket's with him, trying to talk him down, but Thor's not listening. He just keeps saying. Steve hesitated. He keeps saying he should have aimed for the head. The silence was heavy and suffocating. On the Asgardian refugee ship before Thanos came, Thor had watched Heimdall die, watched Loki die, watched half his people slaughtered while he floated in space, helpless and beaten. Then on Earth, in Wakanda, he'd driven Stormbreaker through Thanos' chest, not his head, and given the Titan just enough time to snap his fingers before the Justice League arrived to prevent it. Thor had technically failed. The fact that the snap was reversed by Flash's temporal intervention didn't change the weight of that moment in his mind. Where's Wonder Woman? Bruce asked. In Themyscira. She left yesterday, said she needed to speak with her mother. Steve's voice was careful. Bruce, she's been gone 3 weeks. She's starting to wonder if she belongs here or if she should go home. She can't go home, Tony said. We need her. They need her. Superman's operating on fumes, running himself ragged, trying to prove he's worth the trust we're putting in him. Flash is starting to phase through objects involuntarily because he's pushing his speed too hard for too long. We're burning out our best assets. They're not assets, Steve said sharply. They're people, and people break under enough pressure. Before anyone could respond, Cyborg's voice crackled through the comm system. Conference room, now, all senior personnel. We've got an incident. When they arrived, the room was packed. Superman stood near the holographic displays, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Wonder Woman had returned from Themyscira, armor polished, but her eyes carrying something Bruce recognized immediately. Doubt. Flash vibrated in place, too anxious to stand still. Green Lantern's ring flickered at 40% charge. Aquaman looked like he'd been swimming in polluted water, his usual confidence replaced by something darker. And standing in the center of the room was Nebula, her cybernetic eye cycling through colors that indicated extreme distress. Tell them what you told me, Cyborg said. Nebula's voice was mechanical, emotionless, but the words were sharp enough to cut. My internal chronometer detected an anomaly 6 hours ago. Temporal displacement, quantum fluctuations. I ran a diagnostic and found this. She pulled up a holographic readout covered in data streams that only Shuri and Tony could fully parse. Someone has been accessing the dimensional rifts where the Infinity Stones were sent. Not opening them, just probing, testing, looking for weaknesses. Batman stepped forward. Thanos? Unknown. The energy signature doesn't match his, but it matches something else. Something I've only encountered once before. Nebula's voice dropped. On Vormir, when Thanos sacrificed Gamora for the Soul Stone, there was a presence. The stone's guardian. A creature called the Red Skull, cursed to guide seekers to their prize. He told Thanos that the stones call to each other, that they want to be reunited. I thought it was philosophy, mysticism. But if someone's trying to reach the stones through the dimensional barriers, then the stones are calling back, Strange said, his projection materializing. His face was drawn, older somehow. I've felt it too, in my dreams. A pull, like the time stone wants to come home. I sealed the portal, reinforced it with every ward I know. But magic has limits, reality has limits, and the stones existed before limits were invented. So what are you saying? Steve asked. That we can't keep them separated. I'm saying we bought time. Maybe months, maybe years, but eventually the stones will find a way back, or someone will find a way to them. The multiverse is vast, but it's not infinite in possibility. There are beings out there, cosmic entities, abstract forces, that operate on scales we can't comprehend. If one of them decides the stones need to be reunited, then we're back where we started, Tony finished, fighting an impossible war against an enemy with godlike power. No, Superman said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We're not back where we started, because we've already proven we can win. We scattered the stones. We stopped Thanos when he had 5 of them. We've built a coalition across planets, species, and universes. We're not helpless anymore. Cal's right, Wonder Woman said, stepping beside him. But we're also exhausted, divided. Thor is drinking himself to death. Wanda can barely look at Vision without crying. Bruce Banner hasn't turned into the Hulk since the battle because he's terrified of what he'll do. We're holding, together with scar tissue and stubbornness. Then we rest, Aquaman said. 1 week, no battles, no training, no strategy sessions. We let the warriors breathe before they suffocate. We don't have a week, Batman said. Thanos is rebuilding his forces. Every day we rest is a day he uses to prepare. The next attack won't be a skirmish. It'll be an invasion, full scale, multi-planet. And if we're not ready, if we're not rested, we're already dead. Wonder Woman interrupted. I fought wars that lasted decades, Bruce. I know what happens to armies that don't rest. They become corpses who forgot to lie down. Bruce stared at her, then at Superman, then at the rest of the room. Slowly, he nodded. 1 week, but we maintain skeleton crews on all early warning systems. First sign of movement, everyone mobilizes. Agreed, Steve said. The meeting dissolved. Heroes filed out, heading to their quarters, their homes, their hideaways. Tony went to find Pepper. Steve went to find Bucky. Bruce went to find Solitude in the Batcave equivalent he'd built in the compound sub-levels. And Superman, Wonder Woman, and Flash went to the roof, where they could see the stars. Do you think we can win? Flash asked quietly. Not the next battle, the war. Can we actually stop someone who believes he's saving the universe? Superman looked up at the stars, at the infinite distances between worlds, at the darkness that contained both wonder and horror. I don't know, Barry, but I know we have to try, because if we don't, who will? The people of this earth, Wonder Woman said. They're resilient, stubborn. They've faced extinction-level threats before and survived. They don't need us to save them. They need us to stand with them. Then that's what we'll do, Superman said, for as long as it takes. In Oslo, Thor finally passed out, Stormbreaker cradled in his arms like a child with a teddy bear, and Rocket draped a blanket over him that was far too small but carried the gesture anyway. In Wakanda, Shuri worked through the night, running scenarios, building weapons, preparing for a war she desperately hoped would never come. In the depths of space, on a dead moon orbiting a forgotten star, Thanos sat in meditation, his hands empty but his mind full of purpose, and he smiled because he knew something the heroes didn't. Wars aren't won by the strongest. They're won by the most patient, and he had all the time in the universe. The distress signal came at 3:47 a.m. Wakandan Standard Time. Not a standard frequency, not a digital transmission. It was older than that, a psychic scream that tore through the minds of every magic user on Earth simultaneously. Doctor Strange convulsed in the sanctum, the eye of Agamotto burning against his chest. Wanda Maximoff woke up screaming in the compound, red energy exploding from her hands hard enough to crack the walls. And on Themyscira, where Wonder Woman had returned to seek her mother's counsel, the island's mystical barriers shuddered like a living thing in pain. By 3:49 a.m., every hero was awake. By 3:52 a.m., they were assembled in the compound's war room via holographic projection, physical presence, or in Superman's case, arrival through a window he'd forgotten to use the door beside because he'd flown from Metropolis at Mach 6. Strange's projection flickered, his astral form barely stable. It's the Mind Stone, the portal I sealed in the isolated dimension. Something's breaching it. Not from our side, from theirs. Something in that reality found the stone and it's trying to bring it home. How is that possible? Shuri demanded, her fingers already dancing across holographic interfaces, showing dimensional mathematics that made Tony's head hurt. You said that dimension was low traffic, minimal sentient life. Nothing that could interface with an Infinity Stone's consciousness. I said minimal, not zero. Strange's voice was strained, blood trickling from his nose as he maintained the connection. And I was wrong. There's something there. Something ancient. Something that's been waiting in that reality for eons, and we just delivered it the most powerful psychic artifact in existence. Batman's cowl was already up, white lenses glowing. Show us. Strange waved his hands, and the display shifted, showing a window into the isolated dimension. What they saw made several people step back involuntarily. The dimension was supposed to be empty, barren, lifeless, a void where the Mind Stone could sleep undisturbed. Instead, it was crawling with something that looked like thought made manifest. Psychic energy in its rawest form, coalescing into shapes that hurt to perceive, angles that bent in directions that didn't exist, colors that shouldn't be possible. Structures built from pure consciousness that formed and reformed in patterns that screamed intelligence and hunger. And in the center of it all, the Mind Stone pulsed like a beacon, its yellow light now streaked with black veins as something tried to merge with it, possess it, become it. "What is that?" Peter Parker asked, his voice small. "A psychic parasite," Strange said, "or maybe a god, or maybe something in between. That dimension wasn't empty. It was dormant, and the Mind Stone's presence woke it up." "Can you seal the breach?" T'Challa asked. "I'm trying, but it's fighting me, using the Mind Stone's power to force the portal wider. If it succeeds in bringing the stone back to our dimension while bonded to that thing." Strange didn't finish. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room understood. A psychic entity with the power to control minds on a universal scale was an extinction-level threat that made Thanos look manageable. "How long until the breach opens completely?" Steve asked. "Hours, maybe less. The entity is learning, adapting. Every second it spends connected to the Mind Stone makes it smarter. Then we go get the stone," Superman said, "before it can bring it through." Into that. Wonder Woman gestured at the display, at the writhing mass of psychic horror. "Cal, that thing exists as pure thought. You can punch through planets, but how do you punch an idea?" "Carefully," Superman said, and he wasn't joking. Batman stepped forward. "We need a team, small, fast, people who can resist psychic assault long enough to retrieve the stone and collapse the portal. Strange, Can you send people through? Yes, but I can't protect them once they're inside. That dimension's physical laws are different. Gravity might not work. Time might not flow properly. And that entity will know the moment we enter its space. Then we pick people it can't control, Batman said. He looked at Wonder Woman. Your lasso of truth protects you from mental manipulation. You're resistant. Not immune, but resistant enough. Diana nodded. I'll go. Cyborg, Batman continued. Your cybernetic systems operate on digital logic, not organic neural patterns. The entity might not be able to interface with you. Might not isn't a guarantee, Cyborg said. But my firewalls have held against apocalyptian technology. I'll manage. Wanda, Strange said quietly. I know I'm asking a lot, but your chaos magic is the only force I know that can counteract the Mind Stone's psychic influence. You've done it before when you destroyed the stone to stop Thanos. You might be able to do it again. Wanda's hands were shaking, red energy sparking between her fingers. That stone was part of Vision. I destroyed part of him to save the universe. Now you want me to save the stone that nearly killed him. I want you to stop something worse from being born, Strange said. If that entity bonds with the stone completely, it won't just control minds. It'll rewrite consciousness itself, make people believe they were never themselves to begin with. It'll be genocide of the soul. Wanda closed her eyes, opened them, the red energy steadied. I'll go. I'm going too, Vision said, stepping forward. Every head turned toward him. His voice was quieter now without the Mind Stone, less resonant, but somehow more human. The stone and I were connected for years. I know its patterns, its thoughts. If anyone can reason with it. You can't reason with it, Nebula interrupted. I've seen what the stones do to people. They don't negotiate. They dominate. That thing in the other dimension isn't trying to talk to the Mind Stone. It's trying to eat it, and if you go in, there it'll eat you too. Then I'll make myself indigestible, Vision said calmly. Batman studied him. You're not the same without the stone. You're slower, weaker, more vulnerable. Yes, but I'm also more human, and humans have survived worse by being clever instead of powerful. Vision looked at Wanda. And I won't let her go in there alone. Fine, Batman said. 5-person extraction team. Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Wanda, Vision, and... He paused. Strange. Can you maintain the portal and provide support simultaneously? No. If I'm holding the portal, I'm anchored here. I can't split my consciousness that finely. Then we need a 5th who can navigate hostile dimensions and extract the team if things go wrong. Batman looked at Flash. Barry, how do you feel about running through a dimension where physics might not apply? Flash's molecules vibrated faster. Anxiety made manifest. Terrified, but also, yeah, I can do it. Probably, maybe. I've phased through dimensions before when I've run fast enough. Just never one that was actively trying to eat my brain. Don't let it eat your brain, Batman said flatly. Tactical parameters. Get in, locate the Mind Stone, sever its connection to the entity, extract immediately. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. If the entity is too strong, you abort and we collapse the portal permanently, Mind Stone or not. And trap it with that thing, Wanda asked. Better trapped than unleashed on our universe, Batman said. This is triage. We save what we can and accept what we can't. I hate that you're right, Tony muttered. I hate it too, Batman said. But strategy isn't about good options, it's about less terrible ones. Strange opened his hands, and 6 golden mandalas spiraled into existence, forming a stable portal into the isolated dimension. Through it, they could see the psychic entity writhing around the Mind Stone like a cancer, black tendrils of consciousness wrapping tighter with each second. "Go now," Strange commanded, "before it learns how to come through on its own." Wonder Woman drew her sword and stepped through first, the lasso of truth glowing gold at her hip. Cyborg followed, his systems immediately screaming warnings about incompatible physics and impossible geometries. Wanda went next, red energy forming a protective sphere around her. Vision walked through with the calm of a man who'd already died once and found it less frightening than he'd expected. And Flash vibrated his molecules to match the portal's frequency, then ran through faster than thought. The portal sealed behind them with a sound like reality sighing in relief. Inside the dimension, gravity was a suggestion. They floated in a space that was simultaneously infinite and claustrophobic, where up and down were matters of opinion and distance was measured in feelings rather than meters. The psychic entity was everywhere and nowhere, a presence that pressed against their minds like hands around their throats. "Welcome," a voice said that wasn't a voice. Just the concept of communication impressed directly into their consciousness. New minds, new thoughts, new perspectives to consume and incorporate. "You've brought me more food." Wonder Woman raised her sword, but there was nothing physical to cut. "We're not food. We're warriors, and we're taking back what you stole." "Stole?" The entity laughed, and the sound was every nightmare anyone had ever forgotten. "The stone came to me, called to me, wanted to be found. It was lonely, so lonely. Now it has a friend. We are becoming one, and soon we will become many." Cyborg's sensors locked onto the Mind Stone's location, 300 meters ahead or behind or above. Directions didn't work right here, and he interfaced with the team's comms. "I've got a lock. Moving to intercept." He flew, or fell, or rose. The dimension couldn't decide. Toward the stone. The entity noticed. Black tendrils of psychic energy lashed out, and Cyborg raised his arm, projecting a digital firewall made manifest. The tendrils hit the barrier and recoiled, confused by something that thought in ones and zeros instead of emotions and memories. "Interesting," the entity mused. "You are not alive, not dead, machine mind, inferior, but interesting." "I'm interesting enough to kick your ass out of that stone," Cyborg said, and fired his plasma cannon. The blast hit the entity's consciousness and it screamed, not in pain, but in offense, like someone had insulted its existence. Wanda flew forward, chaos magic spiraling around her hands. "Mind Stone, I know you can hear me. We had a deal. You were supposed to sleep." The stone pulsed, and for a moment she felt its response. Not words, but feelings. Loneliness, fear, confusion. The entity had found it, wrapped around it, promised it connection and purposed an end to isolation. The stone hadn't wanted to betray them. It just didn't want to be alone anymore. "I know," Wanda whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I know what it's like to be alone, but this thing isn't your friend. It's using you, and I won't let it." She reached into the tangle of psychic energy and grabbed the Mind Stone with her bare hands. Her chaos magic flooded into it, red light mixing with yellow, and she began to unravel the entity's grip one thread at a time. The entity roared and attacked, slamming into Wanda's mind with images of everyone she'd ever lost, Her parents, her brother, Vision dying again and again and again. Vision caught her before she fell. "I'm here," he said quietly. "I'm alive. It's lying." "I know," Wanda gasped. "But knowing doesn't make it hurt less." "Then let me help." Vision pressed his hand over hers, and though he no longer had the stone's power, he still had his memories of it. He whispered to the stone in the language they had shared, reminded it of what it meant to choose, to be more than a tool, to protect instead of dominate. The stone's light shifted, yellow gold instead of yellow black, and slowly, reluctantly, it began to pull away from the entity. The entity shrieked, "No, mine, you promised, you said we would be one." "I changed my mind," the stone said, and for the first time it spoke with a voice all its own. Clear, definite, choosing. Flash ran circles around the entity at speeds that bent what passed for space-time in this dimension, creating a vortex that pulled the psychic tendrils away from the stone. Wonder Woman wrapped the lasso of truth around the stone itself, and the golden rope flared with divine light, severing the last connections between artifact and parasite. "Go!" Cyborg shouted, and opened a digital portal back to Earth using his mother box technology. It wasn't stable, it wasn't safe, but it was open. They dove through, Wonder Woman first with the stone wrapped in her lasso, then Vision, then Wanda, then Cyborg, then Flash vibrating so fast he almost phased into the wrong dimension entirely. The portal collapsed behind them, and Strange raised both hands, every ward and seal he knew slamming into place to lock the breach forever. The entity's final scream echoed across dimensions. "I will remember you." Then silence. They collapsed in the compound's war room, the Mind Stone still wrapped in the lasso of truth, pulsing weakly. Strange staggered, the eye of Agamotto going dark, completely drained. "It's done," he rasped. "The portal is sealed. That thing can't follow us." "What do we do with the stone now?" Steve asked. Batman looked at it, then at Vision, then at Wanda. "We make a different choice." The choice was impossible, which meant it was exactly the kind of choice heroes had to make. The Mind Stone hovered in a containment field in the center of the compound's secure vault, 3 stories underground, surrounded by enough vibranium plating to survive a nuclear strike and mystical wards, courtesy of Dr. Strange that made reality itself uncomfortable. Around it stood the people who would decide its fate: the Avengers, the Justice League, the Wakandan delegation, and representatives from 36 worlds that Thanos had threatened or destroyed. "We can't send it back," Strange said, his voice hoarse from maintaining dimensional barriers for 6 straight hours. "That entity proved the isolated dimensions aren't safe. The stones call out, attract attention. Corrupting influence spreads like radiation." "We can't keep it here," T'Challa countered. "Earth has been ground zero for 3 apocalyptic events in the last decade. The Battle of New York, Ultron, Thanos. We're a target. Having an Infinity Stone makes us a bigger one." "Then we destroy it," Rocket said, tail twitching. "I've seen what these things do. Watched Thanos burn his way across the galaxy collecting them. Watched him kill Gamora for one. If something's that dangerous, you don't store it, you atomize it." "We tried," Tony said, pulling up holographic simulations. "Ran every scenario. The Mind Stone is a condensed singularity from the Big Bang. Destroying it releases energy equivalent to a supernova. We'd sterilize the solar system, maybe trigger a chain reaction that collapses local space-time. The cure is worse than the disease. What about the original plan? Steve asked. Scatter it to another dimension. Find one where the stones can't influence anything. That's just delay, Batman said. The stones want to be together. It's not anthropomorphizing, it's observable behavior. Every time we separate them, something tries to reunite them. Thanos, that psychic entity. Next time it'll be something worse. We're not solving the problem, we're passing it to the next generation and hoping they're smarter than us. Then what? Sam Wilson demanded. We just sit here with an omnipotent brain control rock and pray Thanos doesn't come back for it? No, Vision said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He stood beside Wanda, his hand in hers, his voice calm but carrying absolute conviction. You let me take it back. The room exploded, voices overlapping, arguing, rejecting. Wanda's grip on his hand tightened to the point of pain, red energy sparking around her knuckles. Absolutely not, she said, her voice cracking. I just got you back. I'm not losing you again. You won't lose me, Vision said, turning to face her. I'm not the same as I was. The stone doesn't define me anymore. But I understand it. I know its thoughts, its fears, its desires. I can contain it, not as a host, as a warden. That's insane, Bruce Banner said, stepping forward. Vision, the stone nearly killed you when it was extracted. Putting it back could fry every neural pathway you have left. You could lose your mind, your identity, everything that makes you you. Or I could become what I was always meant to be, Vision replied. Not a weapon, not a tool, a guardian. The Mind Stone needs someone who can resist its influence while understanding its nature. I've already lived with it, survived it. I know its limits. And what happens when Thanos finds you? Nebula asked, her cybernetic eye glowing red. Because he will. He always does. He'll tear you apart, take the stone, and we're back where we started. Except now you're dead, and he has the one stone we were trying to protect. Then we make sure I'm not alone, Vision said. He looked at Batman. You said the problem is centralization, one person holding too much power. What if we distribute the responsibility? The Mind Stone goes back in my head, but you build fail-safes, remote kill switches, dimensional anchors, ways to separate us instantly if I'm compromised. You're talking about living as a bomb with a dozen detonators pointed at your skull, Tony said. That's not life. That's suicide with extra steps. It's sacrifice, Wonder Woman said, and her voice carried the weight of 3,000 years watching warriors make impossible choices. I don't like it, but I understand it. Vision is offering to carry the burden so the rest of us don't have to. It's still a terrible idea, Wanda said, tears streaming down her face. There has to be another way. There isn't, Strange said softly. I've looked. 14 million futures, remember? In every scenario where we try to destroy, hide, or abandon the Mind Stone, something catastrophic happens. Either it falls into the wrong hands, or the destruction triggers a dimensional collapse, or Thanos finds another stone first and uses it to locate this one. The only stable futures, the ones where Earth survives the next 5 years, are the ones where Vision takes the stone and we build contingencies around him. How many futures end with Vision still alive? Wanda asked, her voice barely a whisper. Strange hesitated. That hesitation was answer enough. Not many, he admitted, but some, which is more than most of us get. Superman stepped forward, and when he spoke, His voice carried the kind of gentle authority that came from being the last son of a dead world who'd spent his life trying to save his adopted one. Vision, I respect what you're trying to do, but you don't have to martyr yourself. We can find another way. We always find another way. With respect, Vision said, you're from a universe where that's true, but this universe has different rules, harsher ones. Your world has Superman. Mine has Thanos. We don't always get the happy ending. Sometimes we just get the one where the most people survive. Batman pulled out a small device from his utility belt, a cylindrical module covered in circuitry that glowed faint blue. If we're doing this, we're doing it smart. This is a modified mother box fragment combined with Wakandan nanotechnology and Kryptonian crystal architecture. Superman, I scanned your Fortress of Solitude during downtime. Borrowed some ideas. You broke into my fortress, Superman asked. You have 17 security vulnerabilities. We'll talk later. Batman held up the device. This interfaces with Vision's neural network and the Mind Stone simultaneously. It creates a buffer, a firewall. If the stone tries to take control, the device locks it down. If Vision is compromised, we can trigger a dimensional ejection. The stone gets sent to a random universe with no coordinates, no way to track it. And Vision, Wanda asked. Survives? Probably. The separation process is traumatic, but he's done it once. He can do it again. Probably isn't good enough, Wanda said. It's all we have, Batman replied. I'm not asking you to like it. I'm asking you to accept that this is the least worst option in a scenario with no good ones. Shuri stepped forward, holographic tablet in hand. I can improve the design, add redundancies. If Batman's device fails, my nanites can create a secondary containment field, and if that fails... She looked at Wanda. Your chaos magic is keyed to the Mind Stone's frequency. You've destroyed it before. You could do it again, directly. Without the collateral damage of a full detonation, it would kill the stone. But it might not kill Vision. Might, Wanda repeated hollowly. Might is better than nothing, Shuri said. Steve Rogers stepped into the center of the circle. We're talking about turning Vision into a walking doomsday device with 3 kill switches, and we're calling it a plan. Does anyone else see how insane this is? Of course we do, Tony said, but we're also out of time and out of options. Thanos is rebuilding. The Black Order is regrouping. And somewhere in the galaxy, there are 5 other Infinity Stones that are also calling out, waiting to be found. We can't fight this war on 6 fronts. We consolidate. We defend what we can defend. And we accept that sometimes the only way to win is to make the choice no one else is willing to make. T'Challa stood, and when the King of Wakanda spoke, the room quieted. Vision, if you do this, Wakanda will protect you. Not as a weapon, as a citizen. You'll have a home, a purpose beyond the stone. We'll make sure you're not just a container. You'll be a person. Thank you, Vision said. That means more than you know. Last chance to back out, Batman said, holding the device. Once this goes in, you're committed. No second thoughts. No regrets. Vision looked at Wanda. Do you trust me? With my life, she said, but not with yours. Then trust me with both. He turned back to Batman. Do it. The procedure took 4 hours. Shuri and Tony worked in tandem, recalibrating Vision's neural pathways while Strange created mystical anchors to prevent the Mind Stone from overwhelming Vision's consciousness. Cyborg interfaced with the Mother Box fragment, programming fail-safes upon fail-safes. and Wanda sat beside Vision's operating table, one hand on his cheek, whispering things that no one else could hear. When the Mind Stone settled back into Vision's forehead, his eyes opened and glowed gold-yellow, brighter than before, but somehow more controlled. He sat up slowly, and every sensor in the room went active, tracking energy signatures, neural patterns, threat levels. "How do you feel?" Bruce asked. "Whole," Vision said. "Not complete. I'm still less than I was. But whole. The stone is part of me, but I'm not part of it. The buffer is holding. I can feel the stone's consciousness, but it's distant, like a roommate in another part of the house." "And if the roommate tries to take over?" Batman asked. "Then you evict it." Vision touched the device embedded in his temple. "I understand the stakes. I'm ready." "You better be," Rocket muttered. "Because if you go crazy and start mind-controlling people, I'm shooting you in the face." "Understood," Vision said seriously. Wanda took his hand. "If you die doing this, I'm bringing you back just to kill you myself." "That seems fair," Vision said, and for the first time since the stone had been extracted, he smiled. Outside the vault, the Unified Defense Initiative continued its vigil. Satellites tracked Thanos' fleet movements. Diplomatic channels coordinated with alien governments. Training exercises prepared heroes for the battles to come. But in the secure vault, 3 stories underground, surrounded by the people who'd fought and bled to save the universe, Vision stood as a living testament to the impossible choices that defined heroism. The Mind Stone pulsed in his forehead. Vision closed his eyes and felt its presence. Ancient, powerful, afraid. And he whispered to it the way he had in the psychic dimension. "We're going to be okay, I promise." The stone didn't answer, but its light dimmed just slightly. Content for now, to sleep and dream of peace. In the war room above, Batman pulled up holographic star charts showing Thanos' last known position. He's moving again, toward the Andromeda galaxy, building something. We don't know what. "Then we find out," Superman said. "And we stop him before he's ready." "Agreed," Wonder Woman added. "But we do it smart. No more reactive warfare. We take the fight to him." "Finally," Aquaman said, grinning. "I was getting bored." Flash vibrated in place. "Are we seriously about to declare war on an intergalactic warlord?" "Yes," Batman said simply. "Cool, just checking." Flash paused. "We're going to die, aren't we?" "Probably," Batman admitted, "but not today." And in the darkness between stars, Thanos smiled as his new weapon neared completion. A ship the size of a moon, powered by technologies that shouldn't exist, crewed by fanatics who believed balance was worth any price. He'd lost the stones, lost the Gauntlet, lost his children, but he hadn't lost his purpose. And purpose, in the end, was the only infinity that mattered. The attack came at dawn because Thanos understood symbolism. As the sun rose over Wakanda's eastern mountains, painting the savannah gold and red, the sky split open with portals that weren't the space stone's blue but something darker. Wormholes torn through space-time by technology that made even Shuri's instruments scream in protest. Through them poured not Outriders or Black Order remnants, but something worse. Armies from the 100 worlds Thanos had saved. Soldiers who believed the Mad Titan's gospel of balance. Who'd watched their planets halved and emerged as zealots, convinced that their suffering had meaning. They came in ships that blotted out the sun. They came with weapons powered by technologies harvested from dead civilizations, and they came with the absolute certainty that they were the universe's salvation. The Unified Defense Initiative's alarms triggered simultaneously across 12 locations: Wakanda, New York, Atlantis, 3 orbital platforms, the Hidden Guardian's outpost on Nowhere, and the Justice League's temporary base in the Fortress of Solitude, where Superman was helping Cyborg integrate Kryptonian technology with Motherbox systems. Multiple breaches. Cyborg's voice crackled across every comm system. His consciousness split across a dozen data streams. Thanos' fleet, flagship the size of a small moon, 700 support vessels, estimated ground forces in the millions. They're hitting us everywhere at once. In the compound's war room, holographic displays showed the nightmare in real time. Thanos' flagship, called the Sanctuary 3 because apparently the first 2 sanctuaries hadn't been terrifying enough, hung in low Earth orbit like a malignant star, and from its belly poured dropships that screamed through the atmosphere toward population centers. "He's not trying to collect the Mind Stone," Batman said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "He's trying to break us. Force us to spread thin, defending civilians while he isolates vision and extracts the stone surgically." "Then we don't spread thin," Steve Rogers said, shield already on his arm. "We hit the flagship, cut off the head." "That's suicide," Tony said, his armor forming around him in a cascade of nanotech. "That ship has enough firepower to glass the eastern seaboard." "Then we make sure it doesn't get the chance," Superman said, dropping through the ceiling with enough force to crack the floor. His eyes were already glowing faint blue. Heat vision ready. "Batman, strategy?" "Three-pronged assault," Batman said, pulling up tactical overlays faster than most people could read them. "Team Alpha, Superman, Thor, Captain Marvel." Carol Danvers had arrived from deep space 2 days ago, drawn by the cosmic scale energy signatures of the Infinity Stones. "You hit the flagship directly. Disable weapon systems, destroy the main reactor, force Thanos to commit resources to defending his command center." "Team Beta?" Wonder Woman asked. "You, Aquaman, Hulk, Black Panther, ground defense. Wakanda's barrier is already failing under sustained bombardment. You hold the line. Keep civilians safe. Make sure Thanos' forces can't establish a foothold." "And Team Gamma?" Flash asked. "Surgical strike team," Batman continued. "Me, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Vision, Wanda. We portal directly to Thanos' throne room. We end this face to face." "That's insane," Rocket said, checking his rifle's charge. "You'll be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "We've been outnumbered before," Batman said. "And we're still here." "I'm coming with Team Gamma," Nebula said, her voice flat and mechanical. "Thanos is my father. My kill." "He's everyone's kill," Tony said, "but you get first shot." The teams deployed. Superman, Thor, and Captain Marvel took off like missiles, sonic booms cracking across the valley as they accelerated toward the flagship. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and T'Challa led the Dora Milaje and Jabari warriors to the barrier breach points where Thanos' ground forces were already pouring through. And Batman's team gathered in a circle as Doctor Strange's hands wove golden mandalas that would portal them directly into the heart of enemy territory. "Last chance to reconsider," Strange said. "We're heroes," Flash said, vibrating with nervous energy. "Reconsidering is what we do after we've already jumped." "Then let's jump," Batman said. The portal opened. They stepped through, and the war for Earth's survival truly began. On the flagship, Superman hit first, fists leading, and the impact punched through 12 decks of alien composite armor like tissue paper. Alarms screamed, bulkheads sealed, defense turrets swiveled and opened fire with energy weapons that would have vaporized lesser beings. Superman tanked the blasts, absorbed the heat, and kept flying, carving a path toward the ship's reactor core. Behind him, Thor arrived on a column of lightning, Stormbreaker singing as it cleaved through support struts and control systems. Captain Marvel came in from another angle, photon blasts turning corridors into molten slag. "This is for Xandar," she snarled, and her fists glowed bright enough to rival stars. The ship lurched, alarms cascading into critical warnings. And somewhere deep in its command throne, Thanos felt his sanctuary tremble and smiled. "They're learning," he said to no one. "Good." On the ground, Wakanda's barrier finally shattered like glass, and the flood began. Thanos' zealot armies crashed against the Dora Milaje like a tidal wave against a sea wall, and Wonder Woman met them with her sword drawn and the fury of 3,000 years of war in her eyes. She moved like violence perfected, every strike killing 3, every block redirecting attacks into friendly fire, and her war cry, ancient Themisiren words that meant, "For those who cannot fight," echoed across the battlefield. Aquaman drove his quindent into the ground, and the rivers answered, surging up in torrents that swept away entire battalions, drowning them in water pulled from reservoirs 50 kilometers distant. T'Challa fought beside Okoye, their movements synchronized from years of training, his claws tearing through alien armor while her spear found the gaps between plates. And when Bruce Banner finally stopped fighting the Hulk and let him out, the Green Giant roared loud enough to shatter windows in the capital city and began throwing enemies into low orbit. "Hulk hates Space Purple Man," he bellowed, and grabbed an enemy tank, crushed it into a ball, and used it to bludgeon 60 more soldiers. In Thanos' throne room, the portal deposited Batman's team in the center of a chamber the size of a cathedral. Walls carved from dark stone and decorated with the skulls of species that had argued with Thanos' philosophy. The Mad Titan sat on his throne, his armor pristine, the makeshift Infinity Stone conduit in his hand pulsing with dim light. He'd recovered the Power Stone's energy signature somehow, drawn enough residual force to make him dangerous again. "I wondered when you'd come," Thanos said, not standing. "The sorcerer, the genius, the construct, the detective, the vision with his stone, and the witch who loves him, a delegation of desperate hope." "This ends today," Batman said, voice distorted through his cowl. "Surrender, face justice, or we put you down." Thanos laughed. It was a tired sound, empty of humor. "Justice? From those who hoard resources while billions starve? Who build walls instead of worlds? You speak of justice, but practice cruelty through inaction. I offer salvation through sacrifice. We are not the same." "You're right," Tony said, repulsors charging. "We don't murder trillions." "Neither do I. I save them from themselves, from the mathematics of entropy and scarcity. I am the gardener who prunes the dying branches so the tree survives." Thanos stood, and even without the full gauntlet, he radiated threat. "But you wouldn't understand. You see individuals, I see the species. You see tragedy, I see necessity." "We see a murderer," Vision said, the Mind Stone glowing in his forehead. "And we're here to stop you. With the very stone I need." Thanos gestured at Vision. "You've made yourself a target construct. Brave. Foolish, but brave." He moved faster than something his size should, closing the distance to Vision in 2 strides, and Wanda screamed, throwing up a chaos magic barrier that stopped Thanos' punch with a shockwave that cracked the throne room floor. Red energy spiraled around her like a hurricane, and her eyes went black-red as she channeled everything, grief, rage, love, fear, into holding back a Titan. "You don't touch him," Wanda seethed. "Not again. Never again." Thanos pushed harder, and the barrier cracked. Love makes you strong, but it also makes you vulnerable. Green Lantern's construct hammer smashed into Thanos' side, a 50-ton blow of solidified willpower that sent the mad Titan staggering. "How about we make you vulnerable instead?" Doctor Strange's hands wove complex patterns, and chains of golden energy wrapped around Thanos' arms, legs, torso. "You're bound by the laws of the mystic arts. Submit." Thanos flexed, and the chains shattered. "Your magic is impressive, sorcerer, but I've broken gods. You're just a man with borrowed power." He raised the conduit, and the residual power stone energy fired. The blast hit Strange directly, and the sorcerer Supreme's astral form exploded in a cascade of golden light. His physical body, miles away in the sanctum, convulsed and went still. "Strange!" Tony roared, and unleashed every weapon in his arsenal. Repulsors, missiles, lasers, the unibeam, everything. The barrage would have leveled a city block. Thanos walked through it like rain, the conduit absorbing the energy and redirecting it back. Tony's armor sparked, systems failing, and he crashed to the floor. Batman didn't run. He never ran. He just threw a batarang that split mid-flight into 8 smaller projectiles, each one hitting a pressure point on Thanos' armor. Neurological disruptors. Kryptonian technology reverse-engineered from Superman's heat vision. They fired simultaneously, and for 3 seconds, Thanos' nervous system locked up. Vision moved in those 3 seconds, phasing through Thanos' chest cavity, trying to disrupt his vital organs from the inside. But Thanos had fought intangible beings before. The conduit pulsed, the reality stone's residual power activating, and suddenly, Vision was solid again, trapped half inside Thanos' body. The Mad Titan grabbed Vision's head and pulled, and even with the Mind Stone's power, Vision screamed. "No!" Wanda threw herself at Thanos, red energy tearing at his armor, his skin trying to unmake him on a molecular level. "Let him go!" Thanos backhanded her with his free hand. She flew across the throne room, hit a pillar, and didn't get up. Vision, still trapped, reached out toward her with one trembling hand. "Wanda!" Thanos ripped Vision's head off. The Mind Stone came with it, torn free from Vision's skull, and the android's body collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Thanos held the stone in his palm, and it pulsed once, weakly, a dying heartbeat. Finally, Thanos whispered. That's when Superman crashed through the ceiling, having punched his way through 17 decks of the flagship, and his fist connected with Thanos' jaw, with enough force to create a sonic boom that shattered every window in the throne room. Thanos flew backward, dropped the Mind Stone, and Superman caught it mid-air with his other hand. "You don't get to do this," Superman said, his voice cold fury wrapped in steel. "Not today. Not ever." Thanos stood, blood leaking from his mouth, and smiled through broken teeth. "Then stop me, son of Krypton, if you can." They collided, and the flagship began to tear itself apart. The battle for Earth lasted 7 hours, 12 minutes, and 43 seconds. Not because Thanos was defeated in that time. Titans don't fall easily, even when outnumbered and outmaneuvered. but because in that 7 hours, something shifted in the fundamental architecture of the conflict. Superman and Thanos fought through 6 decks of the sanctuary Thor, each punch cratering bulkheads, each impact sending shockwaves through a ship designed to withstand planetary bombardment. Thor arrived with Stormbreaker, Captain Marvel with Photon Fury, and together they drove Thanos into the reactor core, where the flagship's power systems screamed in protest. On the ground, Wanda Maximoff crawled across the throne room floor toward Vision's body, red energy sparking weakly around her fingers, and she pressed her hands to his chest, where circuitry met synthetic tissue. Her chaos magic poured into him, not to revive, that was impossible, but to preserve, to keep his consciousness intact in the microseconds before complete shutdown. And in those microseconds, she whispered a promise. "I will bring you back, I swear it." Batman stood over the Mind Stone where it had fallen, and he made a choice that would define the next decade of superhero doctrine. He activated the Mother Box fragment in his Gauntlet and opened a portal, not to another dimension, but to the quantum realm, a space between spaces where time moved differently and the stone's influence couldn't reach beyond subatomic barriers. He dropped it through, sealed the portal, and detonated the coordinates so no one could follow. The Mind Stone was gone, not destroyed, not scattered, hidden in a place where even infinity couldn't touch it. Flash evacuated 40,000 Wakandan civilians in 3 minutes, moving faster than he'd ever moved, until his molecules started vibrating out of sync with reality, and Cyborg had to anchor him before he phased into another dimension permanently. Green Lantern's ring died at 0% charge, holding a construct dome over the capital city, and Hal Jordan collapsed, unconscious, having given everything. Aquaman commanded every body of water within 100 kilometers to rise simultaneously, creating a tsunami that washed Thanos' ground forces into the barrier coordinates where they were shredded by residual energy fields. And in the reactor core of the sanctuary Thor, Superman held Thanos by the throat, while the mad Titan laughed through broken teeth and bleeding lungs. "You think you've won," Thanos rasped. "I've sown my philosophy across 1,000 worlds. My believers number in the billions. Kill me, and 10 more will rise in my place, each convinced that balance requires blood." "Then we'll stop them too," Superman said quietly. "Every single one, for as long as it takes. You'll fail. Eventually, the universe always returns to entropy. Maybe, but not today." Superman's eyes glowed blue, heat vision building, and Thanos' smile never wavered. "Any last words?" "Just one." Thanos looked past Superman, at Thor with Stormbreaker raised, at Captain Marvel burning with stellar fire, at the heroes who'd crossed universes to stop him. "Thank you." "For what?" Thor demanded. "For proving I was wrong." Thanos closed his eyes. "I thought the universe needed culling, but you, all of you, fought not for yourselves, but for those who cannot fight. You protected the weak when it would have been easier to save only the strong. You chose compassion over mathematics." His voice softened. "Perhaps there is another way after all. I'll never see it. But maybe you will. Don't you dare try to make this noble," Captain Marvel said, fists blazing. "You murdered trillions." "I did, and I'll answer for that. But not to you." Thanos looked at Superman one last time. "End it." Thor drove Stormbreaker through Thanos' chest. Captain Marvel's photon blast followed, and Superman's heat vision carved through the mad Titan's skull, instant and final. Thanos died without screaming, without begging, his body falling into the reactor core where it was vaporized in solar temperature plasma. The sanctuary. 3's reactor went critical. Evacuation orders screamed across all channels. The Justice League and Avengers portaled out via Doctor Strange's emergency failsafe, a contingency spell he'd anchored before the battle. The flagship exploded 300 kilometers above Earth, a miniature sun that burned in the sky for 17 seconds before collapsing into debris that would rain down for weeks. On the ground, Wakanda's warriors cheered. Then they wept. Then they began counting the cost. 463 Dora Milaje killed, 2,000 Jabari warriors dead, 17,000 civilians lost in the initial bombardment before the evacuations completed. Across Earth, the casualties reached 6 figures, entire city blocks leveled, infrastructure destroyed, economies shattered. But Earth was still there. Half the universe wasn't dust. In the compound's medical bay, Vision lay on a table, headless, his body preserved by Wanda's magic and Shuri's technology. The princess worked 48 hours without sleep, rebuilding neural pathways, reconstructing his consciousness from backup files Cyborg had hidden in the quantum foam of space-time. When Vision's eyes opened, new eyes, built from vibranium and hope, the first thing he saw was Wanda's face, tear-streaked and exhausted. "Did we win?" Vision asked, his voice slightly different now, more human somehow. "We survived," Wanda whispered. "That's close enough." Doctor Strange woke 3 days after Thanos' death, his body having been in a coma while his astral form reconstructed itself from being atomized. Wong greeted him with tea and a report. "The Mind Stone is secured. Thanos is dead, his fleet scattered, and the Justice League is preparing to return home." "How long do they have?" Strange asked. "Unknown. The dimensional breach that brought them here is destabilizing. Days, maybe weeks. Then the multiverse will pull them back to their own reality. Then we make those days count." The farewell happened on the Wakandan plains where the battle had been won, at sunset, because that's what heroes did. They said goodbye in golden light, pretending it was easier than it was. Superman shook Steve Rogers' hand, 2 soldiers from different wars, recognizing the same exhaustion in each other's eyes. Wonder Woman embraced Black Widow and Okoye, warriors who'd bled together and earned the right to call each other sister. Aquaman drank with Thor until both gods were laughing at jokes that made no sense. Flash raced Peter Parker one last time and let the kid win. Green Lantern recharged his ring from Earth's sun and left a construct statue of the Unified Defense Initiative as a monument. Cyborg shared his mother box integration protocols with Shuri, technology that would jumpstart Wakanda's next century of innovation. And Batman stood with Tony Stark, 2 geniuses who'd learned to trust each other, despite every instinct screaming not to. "If you're ever in our universe," Tony said, "look us up. We could use someone who thinks like you." "That's terrifying," Batman replied, but noted. Strange opened the portal home. Golden light spiraled into a window showing another Earth, brighter somehow, where Metropolis gleamed and the Justice League's watchtower hung in geosynchronous orbit. "Will you remember us?" Peter asked quietly. "Always," Superman said. "Across every universe, every timeline, we'll remember the day we stood together." They stepped through. The portal closed, and Earth was alone again, but not the same Earth that had been alone before. This Earth had learned that heroes could come from anywhere. That hope was a choice, not a birthright. That even against impossible odds, even against titans and infinity, ordinary people deciding to be extraordinary could change the universe. 6 months later, Vision proposed to Wanda in a garden Shuri had built in Wakanda, surrounded by flowers that bloomed in impossible colors because chaos magic sometimes made beauty. She said yes, and for the first time since Sokovia, she let herself believe in happy endings. 1 year later, the Unified Defense Initiative prevented the Kree-Skrull War from reaching Earth by negotiating a treaty that Tony Stark called the most satisfying diplomatic middle finger in human history. 3 years later, on another Earth in another universe, the Justice League faced their own extinction event, and Superman looked at Batman and said, "Remember Wakanda?" And Batman smiled. Actually smiled and said, "Remember Thanos?" They won that fight too, because that's what heroes do. They fight, they fall, they get back up, and sometimes, across the infinite distances between universes, they remember that they're not alone. That somewhere, in some reality, there are others fighting the same war, making the same choice. Believing that existence is worth protecting, even when existence itself argues otherwise. The Infinity Stones remained scattered, hidden, sleeping in their prisons. The Mind Stone dreamed in the quantum realm of the day it chose consciousness over control. And in the space between dimensions, in the gaps where universes touched, the memory persisted. Justice League and Avengers, fighting together, dying together, winning together. Thanos had said he was inevitable, but in the end, hope was more inevitable. Love was more inevitable, and the simple, stubborn, beautiful refusal to give up. That was the most inevitable force in all of creation. The multiverse never sleeps. More crossovers await, more battles, more impossible choices. But for now, for this moment, Earth could breathe, the heroes could rest. And in the Wakandan sunset, where warriors had bled and died and won, a child asked her mother, "Will the heroes come back if we need them?" The mother looked at the sky, at the stars beginning to emerge, at the infinite possibilities hanging in the darkness. "They never really left," she said. "Heroes never do." Somewhere, Superman heard that and smiled. The multiverse never sleeps. More crossovers await.